Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the September 19 meeting of the Ann Arbor City Council. If you're able, please rise and join us for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Would our clerk please call the roll of council?
Councilmember Hayner?
Here.
Councilmember Dish?
Here.
Councilmember Griswold?
Here.
Councilmember Song?
Here.
Councilmember Grand?
Here.
Councilmember Medina?
Here.
Mayor Taylor?
Here.
Councilmember Iyer?
Here.
Councilmember Nelson?
Here.
Councilmember Briggs?
Here.
Councilmember Mlawi?
Present.
We have a quorum.
May I have a motion, please, to approve the agenda? Moved by Councilmember Iyer, seconded by Councilmember Hayner. Discussion of the agenda. Councilmember Hayner.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. If I understand our rules right, this is a time to comment on things that are or not on or are not on the agenda. So if you would please. I'm sorry Mr. Dohoney isn't here, but I can see him in front of me, so it's actually better because I have to be turned around, sir, to look at you. So, we have rules that describe the equal access to the agenda that we're supposed to have, but we don't all have equal access to this agenda. In the past year or so, this body has either through affirmative resolution or individual request asked for any number of things to be added to the agenda, but these requests have been denied or delayed significant enough that it is effectively a denial. We do not all have equal access to this agenda. And you know what that means for the residents of our city is that they're being denied equal representation. And I can give plenty of examples, just a handful. We had one where we asked through a resolution that a pilot committee be appointed to study the feasibility of the University of Michigan taking some part in paying their fair share for the services they use from our community, and that was never appointed. I asked for a resolution considering a revocation of the emergency powers that were authorized to the mayor under COVID several weeks ago. It took 8 days to hear back on that one, and it has yet to come forward. I've asked various things of planning staff, most recently to create a new zoning type or to consider exploring a new zoning type for temporary, transitional, or tiny housing, which is a need in our community. That has been effectively denied. My inability to access the agenda, either by design or deficit or some other reason I cannot say, but the result is the same, that there is not equal representation here in our community. And for that, I'm sorry. And I hope that in my last couple months here, I can have that change, because I would remind everyone here that, we serve to the end of our terms, and I'm here until the first week in November. And thank you.
Further discussion of the agenda. All in favor? Opposed? The agenda is approved. Do we have communications today from our city administrator?
No, Mayor.
In the absence of introductions, we now come to public comment reserve time. Public comment reserve time is an opportunity for members of the public to speak to council and the community about matters of municipal interest. To speak at public comment reserve time, one needs to have signed up in advance by contacting our city clerk. Speakers in all instances will have 3 minutes in which to speak, so please pay close attention to the time. Our clerk will notify you when 30 seconds are remaining and when your time is expired, and the clock here in the room will do the same. In each case, when your time is expired, please conclude your remarks and cede the floor. Our first speaker today is Evelyn Smith.
Hi, everyone. My name is Evelyn Smith. I have been a renter and resident here in Ann Arbor for the past 6 years, and I'm here today to talk about the Right to Renew ordinance, which is up for a first reading at today's meeting. Several days ago, I was speaking to a room full of renters in Ann Arbor, maybe 200 or so people, and I asked them to raise their hands if they had ever been pressured by their landlord to renew their lease before they were ready. And wouldn't you know it, a full 3/4 of people in the room raised their hands. It shouldn't be news to anyone at this point that there's a massive power imbalance between landlords and renters in this city. It is the norm for landlords to ask renters to renew their leases before they've had the opportunity to discover whether their heating works in the winter or whether their landlord is responsive to maintenance requests. And if we as renters don't renew our leases on our landlord's timeline, at our landlord's convenience, we risk losing our homes. We risk the equivalent of no-cause eviction. Right, so the right to renew ordinance that you'll be discussing today goes a long way towards fixing this problem. It helps ensure that renters have adequate time to discover, to make an informed decision about whether or not to renew their leases. And I want to emphasize that this is a thoroughly considered piece of legislation. It's been on your desks since at least March. It's been reviewed by the city attorney, by the Renters Commission, by the head of the Housing Commission, and by Washtenaw County Prosecutor Ellie Savitt. It's also been endorsed by the Washtenaw Housing Alliance, by the Housing and Human Services Advisory Board, and by several labor organizations in the area, including the Huron Valley Labor Federation, as well as GEO and LEO. Right, so all of those groups of people have had opportunity to comment on this language, to provide feedback. That feedback has been incorporated. And on top of that, over 650 renters have signed a petition demanding that this ordinance be passed into law. So what I'm asking you today is and in the coming weeks, is to pass this ordinance into law. Right? What I would like to happen, ideally, is for this to be placed on the next City Council agenda for a second reading and for you all to take a vote. The sense of urgency that renters have in this issue might seem unwarranted, but I do want to point out that while a majority of our city's residents are renters, there's not a single renter on City Council today. Right? So I'm asking you to set aside your own personal legislative priorities and to take on the perspective of the constituents that you represent. Right? We are staring down the barrel of another year with predatory waiting lists, non-refundable deposits, another year of watching our friends get evicted and fearing eviction ourselves. We can't afford to wait any longer, and we're paying attention, so neither can you. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Zachariah Farah.
Good evening. My name is Zachariah Farah, and I'm the chair of the new Renters Commission. I'm here to speak about the Ordinance Amendment C-1, known as Right to Renew. This proposal is before you because many tenants in our city live in a state of constant instability. They are not guaranteed the opportunity to renew their leases and to continue living in their own homes, even if they do everything right and they are the best tenants that they could possibly be. I've spoken with countless tenants who wanted to continue living in their homes but were not offered the chance to do so by their landlord. Most likely because the unit had been listed for a higher price for the subsequent term, and someone had contacted the landlord to take that unit. This proposal gives landlords a choice. Stop arbitrary non-renewal of leases, or pay relocation assistance to the tenant who is being removed from their home without cause, a process that can be very stressful and expensive. This is a common sense rule, and many people I spoke with thought this was already in place. In fact, it is such a basic protection that the American Bar Association has endorsed this general policy and has stated that every city in America should have a law like this one. This ordinance amendment, first proposed by the Graduate Employees Organization in July of 2021, has been analyzed by city attorneys, has been discussed and endorsed by both the Renters Commission and the Housing and Human Services Advisory Board. It has been discussed and endorsed by a long list of community organizations like the Washtenaw Housing Alliance, the Huron Valley Area Labor Federation, the U of M Central Student Government, the Ann Arbor Tenants Union, and the list goes on. Additionally, we did send 2 commissioners to speak with the Washtenaw Area Apartment Association to hear their concerns. The situation for many Ann Arbor tenants is a dire and stressful one, and reforming our local laws to prevent abuses and exploitation is the necessary path forward, one that will require this council to give these issues an increased priority. After all, 53% of your constituents are renters. I urge you to not fail them now and to pass Right to Renew. It certainly doesn't fix all the problems facing renters, but it is a bold step forward. I'm very grateful for those of you who have engaged on this issue and for the city attorneys who have done the work to provide the analysis that you've received. I look forward to seeing this hopefully passed and beginning with the process of education on this issue. And for those of you who do have questions, there's an open invitation to just email me. We can set up a meeting and we can go line by line every single part of this ordinance amendment and explain why it's in there and address all concerns and questions you might have. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Kartik Pasupula.
Hi, my name is Kartik Pasupula, and I'm a third-year undergraduate student at the University of Michigan, double majoring in PPE, which stands for Philosophy, Politics, and Economics. Today I'm here representing the Central Student Government, as I am the Speaker of the Central Student Government, CSG's 12th Assembly. The reason why I'm here today is to communicate to this Council about CSG's stance on right to renew. On September 6, 2022, we passed a resolution to formally support an amendment to the Ann Arbor Housing Code to extend protections for tenants in the form of a right to renew amendment. This is an extension on our previous advocacy and support for the early leasing ordinance, as this was supported by a vast amount of students and made a meaningful impact on their lives, including mine, especially as renters. However, the problems with the ELO is that it was not enough, and we need more protections as renters. I myself have been a renter in Ann Arbor, and my experience with my landlord has been far from optimal. I could easily go on and on about the negative experiences I've had with my landlord, but many people have come here before this council and told the stories. I'm here to emphasize once again how CSG, your constituents representing the student body, are in favor of this amendment. A lot of students have had experience like having to sign up for reservation lists, and even sometimes non-refundable deposits. I mean, this is absolutely absurd, and that's why CSG is standing up for renters. Right now in Ann Arbor, renters have minimal power, and a lot of landlords across Ann Arbor use whatever loopholes that they can use to force students like me to renew early or use waitlists or other methods that should not be allowed to force renters to make a decision early about renewal. Additionally, it should be noted that right to renew isn't some sort of radical policy. This is part of housing codes across the country, and it's an ordinance that even the American Bar Association endorses. I mean, this should be considered a basic protection for renters, because not having a right to renew is on par with eviction, and we don't have that protection right now. Renters who have done nothing wrong should be afforded the right to renew their lease during an appropriate time instead of October, before the summer you move in, when you're living with your roommates for the first time in an apartment for the first time. And then suppose you want to renew, but your landlord has found somebody that will pay more than you, and now you have to find a new place to live. Moving isn't an experience without transactional costs. It costs a lot of money, even when you're moving within the same city. You probably have to take time off work, possibly even pay for moving services if you're disabled, and move your different belongings to your new place. And we just skipped over the fact where we assumed that this person just found another place to live that easily without taking time off work or anything else to go apartment hunting. You might say, what if this tenant consistently trashed their unit or were overall bad tenants? Well, that is why right to renew allows for just cause evictions. If tenants violate the leases, then landlords would have the ability to not offer them renewal terms. If you're a good tenant, then your landlord should not have a good reason to evict you. Then that's why it's imperative that relocation assistance is a part of this ordinance. In all, I'm here to show you that CSG, representing the student body at the University of Michigan's Ann Arbor campus, stands with renters and firmly supports the inclusion of the right to renew ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Brandon Dimcheff.
Excuse me. Hello. My name is Brandon Dimcheff. I live in the 4th Ward. I am excited to see Council entertaining the idea of prohibiting turns on red downtown. I know several folks who have been hit by a car when a driver was looking the opposite direction while attempting to turn on red at a busy intersection. I've also had a few close calls myself. One almost happened out here just a minute ago. So I understand that this might be postponed until we can figure out what to do about MDOT roads. So I'll also ask that you pass CA8 so maybe one day we can control our own destiny here. Like any decision, there are pros and cons to making this change, but it's fairly clear to me that the benefits outweigh the drawbacks. In the text of the resolution, it is noted that 90 pedestrian injury crashes occurred in this area from 2017 to 2021. This certainly won't eliminate all of those crashes, but even reducing it by a few is more than worth minor delays due to drivers having to wait for a light to turn green in order to complete their turn. I do have 2 requests, though. I noticed that this didn't include campus in the area, and pedestrian traffic is got to be at least as high there as it is downtown. And I imagine that the arguments for why it's dangerous to turn on red downtown also apply to South University and really all the area between Hill, Huron, and Washtenaw. So I was curious why that wasn't included. And I've also observed poor compliance with existing no turn on red downtown, particularly across the bikeways. I've had a couple close calls this summer on my bike when drivers have illegally turned on red in front of my path. I've had to slam on my brakes, and I have a nice bike horn that I have used more than I really want to. The signs are often only posted at the right side of the intersection, like at the stop line, and not like up on the lights and stuff. So I'm sure some drivers just don't care, but I think a lot of people probably don't see those signs, and the bike lanes are relatively new and they don't really know that they shouldn't be doing that. So if we do this policy and we're going to try to consistently do it everywhere, I think it's really going to be important for us to make it really clear that people should not be turning on red. Thank you for listening and trying to make Ann Arbor safer for all users. Have a good one.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Donnell Weich.
Donnell Weich, you can go ahead and...
Hi, Council. I'm Donnell Weich, and I live on the 500 block of Silo Church Road in the 4th Ward. I'm speaking this evening in support of CA6, City staff's decision to remove on-site parking on division between Hoover and Packard Road. Had you traveled this bike lane with me today from Hoover to Packard, you would have encountered many obstacles and hazards, like trash and recycling cans, blocking the painted bikeway, or the idling Amazon delivery truck, forcing you to enter the car traffic, putting yourself and others at risk of injury. When Council received and approved its transportation plan, it endorsed the plan's goals of making our streets safer by reducing speeds in the hope of decreasing injuries and deaths, and by opening our streets to more users and uses than just car transport and storage. And your action, approving CA6 today, moves us one step closer to this goal. Further, the more the city is able to expand protected bike infrastructure, the more trips that I and others can make by our bikes, thus reducing our vehicle miles traveled. But please don't stop with the removal of this on-street parking. Would you also consider removing on-street parking on South 7th when the city updates its water main and repaves that road? As a parent who bikes daily to school with my children, having a protected bikeway increases our safety, especially when we have to dodge distracted drivers who are either speeding through the neighborhood or are using their phones and are not focused on the task of driving safely. So I enthusiastically support this project, and I'm asking you to support it and expand protected bike lanes in Ann Arbor. Let's do more than just 5 miles per year. Let's try to double that to 10. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Richa.
Caller with the phone number ending in 667. Go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great. Good evening. My name is Richa and I live in Ward 1. My comment is related to agenda item C1, which is the right to renew leases ordinance. I will repeat what tenants have said a few times before already because it bears repeating. What right to renew and early leasing ordinance are basically demanding is just for the city to kind of listen more closely to what tenants require. There should be no doubt at this stage that tenants have been pressured for years in Ann Arbor to renew their leases before they're ready. And this continues because the power dynamic between tenants and landlords in Ann Arbor is extremely skewed in favor of landlords, which is hugely unfortunate. And we really hope that there's no debate any longer on the fact that the timeline that we are proposing here, which is way more than 70 days, which a lot of landlords are still asking tenants to abide by, and somewhere certainly closer to 5 months from the end of our leases. Landlords are also not really obligated to renew our leases. They don't even have to give us a reason if they choose not to do so, which is extremely unfair. We know that there are certain rights that we should be able to assert, things like better living conditions, timely repairs and maintenance, which a lot of us are too afraid to do because, when a landlord arbitrarily decides not to renew our leases, it's likely because we are speaking up more than they'd like us to. So right to renew will also correct that because landlords would have to state a reason behind it. Additionally, tenants have already spoken before about how terrifying it can be when we're told unexpectedly that we have to move out for no fault of our own at a timeline that absolutely does not work for us. Because we know that moving is expensive and very difficult for us to fund on our own, right to renew will require landlords who are far wealthier than us, typically in a landlord-tenant relationship, to compensate us with an amount that's equal to twice our rent. And this is something that's really basic. We have heard of cases where oftentimes tenants pay another tenant to take over their leases. So typically when these tenants understand and empathize with one another, we don't see why it should be difficult for council members to listen to us and really agree that a moving fee should be an important component and an essential, mandatory part of this kind of ordinance. I just want to point out again that I'm already among 11 tenants who've spoken in favor of this at public comment. I've also signed the petition with 650 others where we asked council to pass this in the previous leasing cycle, and I'm also among a few others on the Ann Arbor Renters Commission who've endorsed this in July. So we really hope that you can bear in mind that this ordinance has a lot of support from tenant constituents when you make a decision for which way to vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Michelle Hughes.
Michelle Hughes, do you have a comment?
Hi. So I am hoping that the City Council today will retain the existing policy of requiring masks at all City Council meetings, regardless of the Washtenaw County's level. It's so I just looked up the Washtenaw County's case numbers and so forth. Last year at this time, there were 450 cases this week last year in Washtenaw County of COVID, and this year there are 840 cases this week. So that's almost double. We're seeing almost double the cases that we were seeing last year. And in admissions, hospital admissions, this week, this year, we're seeing 33. This week, last year, we had 19. So again, that's almost double what we saw last year at this time for this week. And last year, there was 1 death in this week, and this year there were 5 deaths from COVID this week. Also, you can see it. So you can see that COVID hasn't been getting better. We haven't been seeing good public health outcomes, and in cases have been going up, admissions have been going up, and deaths have been going up since last year. And so this seems like a bad time to remove mask mandates. And I understand that the county, the state, and the federal government have all done this, but the city doesn't have to do it. There are many cases where the city already chooses to protect its citizens more to a greater degree than the city, state, or county governments require. For example, the city has a far-ranging non-discrimination ordinance that goes above and beyond what is required by the federal, city, or state, the federal, state, or county ordinances. It protects LGBT people to a greater degree, for example, and it protects people from discrimination based on their hairstyle due to their, racism. And so similarly, the city could choose to protect people here. We know that there are unequal health access issues that make people more susceptible to COVID. And if we stop requiring masks, then we're ratifying that and moving it on to government access issues. And I know that we still have the ability to call in, but some people will have access to the in-person and some people won't if we remove masks. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there communications today from Council? Councilmember Dish.
Thank you. I would like to urge everyone, but especially residents of Wards 1 and 5, to participate in MDOT's virtual public meeting on the Barton Drive M14 interchange. This area is a known trouble spot for truck crashes, including last year's fatal crash, which spilled somewhere around 100 gallons or more of diesel fuel into the Huron River. So MDOT was persuaded, strong-armed, I don't know, excellently induced, to complete a study and propose 4 options. So the 4 options are: 1, do nothing; 2, close the eastbound exit; 3, create a larger exit loop for the eastbound exit that would extend it further into the land on the Ann Arbor side of the exit; and 4, close the current entrance and exit ramps and relocate them further north of the existing ones and redistribute some of the infrastructure onto Whitmore Lake Road. They call this a dog bone, don't ask me. You can find this virtual public meeting at M14 hyphen Barton Pell, that's Barton P-E-L, all one word, .com. You can also find out information from this if you just probably Google MDOT Barton Drive, or you can write an email to me and I'll send you the links you need. Thank you.
Councilmember Griswold.
Yes, I was in New York City last weekend, and I want to report that Ann Arbor has much better ADA, Americans with Disability Act, infrastructure than Manhattan does. I was surprised by that, but that's the way it was. Number 2, I had mentioned bringing forward a resolution asking that all dark school crosswalks and crosswalks in school walk zones be illuminated, and ask staff to find out what that dollar amount was. However, in doing some research, we already asked staff to do this. It was called the Tier 1, 2, and 3 study that was done after a student was fatally injured in an unlit crosswalk near Huron High School. And so the 3 boards in front of you, you can't read them, but it shows the volume of information that was collected and the plans that were in place. So I hope that we can continue that project that was already approved by council. Lastly, most of you already know that the Michigan Court of Appeals vacated the June 2021 court order regarding the Gelman plume. And I just want to read briefly from Congresswoman Debbie Dingell's press release. She's credited with leading the effort for getting EPA cleanup. And she says that the original order that would force Gelman to enact urgent substantive cleanup measures will put human health and our water at risk. That the result of vacating that order. For decades, Gelman has attempted to stall and deflect while the plume spreads and threatens our water and environmental health. It was clear already, and even clearer now, that we must act urgently to designate this site as an EPA Superfund site so that we can finally clean up this site and begin to end this nightmare for families living in this area. So I think this is a pretty strong statement.
Councilmember Nelson.
Thank you. We have a few things going on in Ward 4. First of all, for a number of months now, we've been fielding questions from residents wondering when we were going to start work on the western end of Scioto Church Road, and the city announced this week that project has been postponed to 2023. The city project page for that project on the city's website has information. I have information on my website if you're interested. There are also a couple of public engagement meetings There's a proposal to combine the parcels of the block surrounded by South State, Henry, White, and Stimson Streets. The property owner is asking for a rezoning, and there's a required public engagement meeting. That's going to be this Wednesday from 6:30 to 8 at 1919 South Industrial Highway. That's the old Lucky's grocery store. There's another meeting around the State and Hill Improvement Project. That's going to be Tuesday, September 27th. That's going to be a Zoom meeting led by the city. Both of these there's information on my website at a2lnl.com. You can search for them at the city site as well. I think that's it. Thanks.
Councilmember Hayner.
Yeah, thanks. Just briefly, I had the pleasure of attending 3 different events this weekend. And it was kind of interesting. They're all kind of similar in a way. They had a 40-year anniversary of St. Andrew's breakfast. Every day essentially for the last 40 years, they've been providing free breakfast to anybody who needs it over there, which is pretty remarkable when you think about it. And then it was also the 2nd-year anniversary of the Entheo Fest, and Sunday was a successful sort of event on the Diag. We had a couple hours worth of speakers, a lot of kind of just genuine free speech and truthfulness was to be found there, which is always a good thing, and also a lot of political action. And we also had a series of successful work sessions, and we're getting ready to close out what'll be the 3rd year now at the Food Forest up on the Northside Food Forest, the permanent food forest. And all these projects are pretty remarkable in that they have succeeded with little help from government, and sometimes in spite of help from government. And so it's pretty remarkable to show what people can do in the community on their own when they get together and they see a good cause and they want to act on that. And so I was happy to be part of those 3 things, and it just gives me hope for the future of Ann Arbor. Thank you.
Further communication from council. Councilmember Song.
There was an event at EMU this weekend on a discussion on race hosted by Survivor Speak. A number of community groups came together for this. One of the outcomes, some of the speakers included Tim Wise and our assistant county prosecutor. One of the reminders that organizers had put out that day was to be on the lookout for a survey that's going out to all public officials. I think it's called Operation Accountability, and it's asking us to account to what are our efforts as we're in office in support of diversity, equity, and inclusion. So hopefully if we're aware of this, we can all be responsive, because I think there was a struggle as to who had responded in time when there was an earlier effort earlier this spring. So I encourage everyone to participate.
Further communication from council. I'd like to request confirmation of the following appointments that were presented to council at the December 6, 2020 regular session. To the Design Review Board, Wendy Rampson. To the Energy Commission, Gabriel Harp. May I have a motion, please? Moved by Councilmember Briggs, seconded by Councilmember Iyer. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? It is approved. I'd also like to recommend the following nominations for your consideration to the Downtown Area Citizens Advisory Council: Angela Francis Pete. To the Energy Commission, Mike Berkowitz. We now have before us the consent agenda. May I have a motion, please, to approve the consent agenda? Moved by Councilmember Griswold, seconded by Councilmember Grand. Discussion of the consent agenda. Councilmember Griswold.
I'd like to remove CA6 and CA8.
Councilmember Dish.
I'd like to say something nice about CA11, which means I think I have to remove it, right?
You can say something nice at any time.
Excellent. Then I'd just like to say that I'm very happy to see this and very grateful to OSI staff for applying for a $54,000 grant from EAGLE. This grant will provide curbside EV charging for residents in multi-unit dwellings who do not have a garage or otherwise dedicated parking spot. And it will work by locating the charger on DTE-owned utility poles. This is a pilot grant, and it will support 3 chargers in 2 Ward 1 locations on East Kingsley and North Ingle Streets. So thank you very much.
Further discussion? Councilmember Hayner.
Yeah, thanks. Comment on CA4. We have a resolution there to drill some Sentinel monitoring wells for the Gelman matter. Happy to see that in front of us. It's a reasonable, somewhat reasonable cost for this. And as we've already seen from Scioto Township's work, they are needed. And I'm sorry to say. And then CA 13, in keeping with the electric vehicle thing, close readers will note that of that $600 and some thousand in new vehicle purchases, really the majority of it, well, about 5-6 of it is going to electric vehicles. So that's moving forward with our Green Fleets program, which is nice to see. Hopefully those will work out for us. And then CA 15 is unusual only in its location because it's a resolution to approve a development agreement, which typically comes before us as part of or typically used to come before us, typically as part of the general discussion around a project. But in this case, we're seeing what's continuing the trend of what sort of replacing open and sometimes adversarial, discussions and back and forth with developers about the various merits or lack thereof of their projects here at the table, even if they were by right, with sort of just letting them slide through with planning commission approval. And that's what's happening here. It's a development of a site. A development agreement is just on the consent agenda. Just go ahead and consent to that, everybody. So I just think that's it's not a good trend, in my opinion. Thank you.
Further discussion of the consent agenda. Councilor Grand.
Thanks. I'd like to just make a comment on CA 15 as well, since it's in our ward. I've been in contact with the developer for quite some time. In addition to going through the planning process, they did pretty extensive public engagement. Didn't really find a lot of opposition to the project, but reached out certainly. I think more than you would even normally see. So excited to eventually welcome these neighbors to the third ward. Thanks.
Further discussion? All in favor of the consent agenda with the exception of CA 6, CA 8, please say aye. Opposed? The consent agenda with the exception of CA 6 and CA 8 is approved, thus satisfying the 8-vote requirement with respect to CA 11, CA 14. CA 6, resolution to remove parking on Division Street between Hoover Street and Packer Street. Moved by Councilmember Griswold, seconded by Councilmember Dish. Discussion, please, of CA 6. Councilmember Griswold.
I'm going to approve this, but I just want to raise some concerns that I think staff should be aware of. One is the number of driveways that are on Division. And so when putting in this two-way bikeway, we need to make sure that there is maximum visibility to all of the driveways. And by removing those parked cars, that is going to help. But there's also issues with overgrown vegetation there. I also think that we need to look at all of these projects from an equity standpoint. This is lower priced rental housing for students. And I know some students need a car because they end up doing either Lyft, Uber, or they're delivering food products. And so I hope that when we remove parking, that we look at it from an equity lens as well as from a pedestrian safety lens or cycling safety lens. Thank you.
Further discussion of CA 6. Councilmember Hayner.
Thanks. For people in the public who aren't exactly clear on where this is, it's that crazy striping that the fire trucks can hardly get through, where we put the parking, the bike lane, and we've kind of tied it all up, and there's parking, right of way, parking, bike lane, curb. It's not good there. It's not good. Something has to be done there. Mm-hmm. I just, it wasn't good from the get-go as far as I was concerned, and I heard from a lot of people that were like, they couldn't even understand what was going on there. And of course you see the scattered parking and how it wasn't really working together. I don't know that getting rid of the cars is the right solution, but that clearly is a trend in our policy here. And so, it's another case of where the vast majority of people who commented on this move were not residents of the area. I think there was less than a fifth of the people who live there actually commented on it. And so, we have a couple hundred people in our community who don't want cars on our streets anymore, and that's the way it's going. So just be aware, Ann Arbor, that's what's happening here. So it was foul, and now we're going to redo it for $60,000. So it's hopefully, but doubtfully, we will learn our lesson.
Further discussion, Councilmember Robinlawi.
Thank you. Yeah, this has been kind of a problem for a while. When the markings were changed and the patterns were changed a year or two ago, and really without much consideration by this body, but by, I believe it was administratively done, just has created a situation which I feel when driving down there is more dangerous. You really can't see people in between those cars, people getting in and out. The width of the area for a vehicle to go through is very narrow. I'm just glad no one's died in the meantime. I don't know if this is a perfect solution, but I don't think there is one. I think this is going to add increased pressure on a stressed parking situation. And, again, I said it before, people with money will continue to have that privilege. I will raise the question and the issue that we're seeing further down Division Street, where trash cans are set on the raised curb, and I'm not sure exactly how this will be designed. But when there's trash day, you have a problem with trash cans being knocked over because of wind and cars blowing by, and you have big problems in the bike lanes. And there's not a really good solution or fit right now for recycling carts and trash carts to be placed and picked up and serviced. So I don't know if staff is here to help explain what will be done in this instance to address this current issue we're having further down on Division.
Mr. DeHoney?
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Raymond Hess is available to answer questions.
Yes, good evening, Council. Raymond Hess, Transportation Manager for the city. To address Councilmember Romlawi's concern, I think the new configuration will help with the placement of the carts because the cycle track will now run on the east side of the road. There will be a buffer between the cycle track and the vehicular travel lane. And as is the case with other cycle tracks throughout town, that will allow an area for people to push their carts in that is not in the bike lane and is not up against the curb, but rather in that sort of buffer area. Right now, the cars that are parked are in that area, so they are the buffer, but the on-street parking is removed from that east side of the road, especially between Hill and John. So there will be kind of this buffer area for people to roll their carts, especially from the east side of the road. So hopefully the situation will actually be improved, especially for solid waste. And we did review this plan with solid waste as well as emergency response, and internally everybody thinks this new design will service the needs of the area a lot better than the current configuration.
Councilmember Briggs.
Yeah, thanks. Excited to see this move forward. Obviously, Transportation Commission has looked at it and approved it in May. As council members have noted, this has had extensive public feedback, which has been quite supportive. It's also along the trend of what we have seen in our comprehensive transportation plan, which had widespread engagement across our community and very supportive of creating a safer, more accessible, multimodal environment. So that's good. In terms of comments around equity, I think we can always be aware that transportation is the second biggest cost in household budgets. And so when we are providing our residents with the option to safely get around our community by foot, by bike, by transit, we are making our community more equitable.
Further discussion? All in favor? I'm sorry, was there a discussion, Councilor Romlawi?
Yeah, if I could use a little bit more time, sorry. I will be supporting this, but just while we have Raymond here, if he can help me better understand what's going on the, I guess I'll just take this offline, actually. I won't waste this body's time right now on that. I'll go offline with it. Thanks.
Further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? CA6 is approved. CA8, resolution to approve a professional services agreement with Sam Schwartz Consulting, LLC. amount of $134,271 and appropriate funds for the state trunk line jurisdiction transfer study in the amount of $160,000. Moved by Councilmember Griswold, seconded by Councilmember Dish. Discussion, please, of CA8. Councilmember Griswold.
Yes, I mentioned before the ongoing project to illuminate crosswalks in the school walk zones. This is a critical project. We know the condition of our roads right now. They were so bad that when our new city administrator arrived, he immediately came up with a solution, a bonding solution to try to move some of that work forward. So this actually is $160,000 that we could be spending on illuminating crosswalks, an already approved project, but instead we're going to study whether we should take over the state trunk lines. And I think if you ask anyone, can we afford to take over the state trunk lines given the condition of our roads? They would probably say no. So I know that we're moving forward with this, but this brings me back to the other issue. We had a resolution, and actually I think it's Communication 4, AC4. Missy Stoltz provided some communication. We had a meeting about greater coordination between our different programs. And I think this is another example where we've got data to support doing something, but we're very narrowly focused on it, and we're ignoring all of these other projects, including a greater risk to our school children. Thank you.
Further discussion? Councilmember Hayner.
Sorry about the mic bang there. Well, the first thing I was going to say was, $60,000 there, $250,000 here. Pretty soon you're talking about real money. But I have to agree that the results of this study, one of the results hopefully is going to say, hey, this is how many parts of a mile of these we're going to take over and we're going to be responsible for moving forward in the future. And I'm sure it's a huge amount. It's going to cost a fortune to maintain these roads. And we're taking them over, we're studying taking them over effectively because we are not allowed to choose the speed we'd like to be on these. We'd like it to be on these streets. It's chosen by a state-dictated formula. And so we want to take over Washtenaw, Huron, other state trunk lines, North Main, and say 25 like everywhere else in the city. That's okay, but they're trunk lines for a reason, and I'll be interested. I know the study's going to pass because we love studies. I'm not going to vote for it. It'll be interesting to see what they come back and say what the costs of carrying that in the future are going to be in perpetuity for the city of Ann Arbor, and what that's going to add to our budget, and what's going to be lost when we start spending money maintaining state roads. Thank you.
Councilmember Briggs.
Yeah, thanks. Just for folks that haven't looked at this, the scope of this analysis will, it hasn't formally been drafted yet according to the memo, anticipates that it will include the cost-benefit analysis of near-term, mid-term, long-term considerations, such as the condition of the roadways, cost to bring the roads up to an acceptable state of good repair, cost to operate and maintain the roadway in perpetuity, and anticipated increases to gas tax revenues. Additionally, staff intend for the analysis to capture other positive and negative externalities that might result from the transfer of ownership. And it goes on if folks want to read on that. But I think that we may individually have opinions around this. I certainly do. I think that many in our community might say that we can't afford not to take ownership of these, given what the cost of not being able to control the design of these roadways has meant for our community in the long term, both in terms of our actual lives of that have been impacted through crashes, but also in terms of accessibility throughout our community. So, we can think about kids trying to walk and bike to school. There are countless examples of why we can think about it as just the entryway into our community and the image that we present. But it's important that we would go into any conversation around this with good data, good information, and have an informed conversation, and that's what this does. So I look forward to being able to see what comes back to us and being able to have that informed conversation at this table.
Further discussion? Councilmember Griswold.
Yeah, I don't want to disagree with the merits of the study, but I think it's premature to be spending this kind of money right now when we have unlit school crosswalks, which I think is just criminal. There's no excuse whatsoever. Two other related things. We need to be working closely with MDOT, and we need to be working closely with DTE. We are not able to maintain street lighting. The roads belong to MDOT, but we're responsible for the street lighting on those roads. We recently had a street light outage that lasted 2 weeks because we thought the lights belonged to DTE, but they belong to us. We have a pattern when we have construction, which we have a lot of downtown. Wires get cut, and we wait for someone to complain. We need to be proactive about that. So again, this is premature. We need to get our house in order before we start talking about taking over or even look at taking over more assets in this community.
Further discussion? Councilmember Rumlawi.
Thank you. Yeah, I won't be supporting this here tonight. $160,000 to take a look at a study that I feel we have little chance at actually pursuing. I just feel it's a waste of money based on our current situation, based on our current needs and our budget, inflationary costs. I know this council hasn't been hit with the sober news, but I think in a year or two, there's going to be some serious belt tightening. And right now, I don't think this council is aware of what's coming down the pipe. And $160,000 in a couple of years or next year is going to be something you're going to be trying to find. And I think we're wasting money here. If you look at the resolution and you read the language of the whereases and how we got to this, it's I think half-baked. This contract was customized for this particular consultant who's done a lot of work for our city, who's done good work, but it really is, it lacks specifics. I don't think it's going to deliver much. And we could be spending this money in other parts of our infrastructure that is failing. Our roads are terrible. Hopefully they get better. Some of the better roads are actually the ones owned by MDOT. And I think there are better ways that we can collaborate with MDOT in order to achieve the safety issues that we want to achieve and the goals. I don't think a complete takeover of their assets is a way, and the only way that we can get to Vision Zero. I quite frankly don't, again, feel comfortable or confident that we can execute this, and I'd rather just not even waste $150,000 to begin with.
Councilmember Nelson.
Thank you. I need some clarification. I read the memo. I read the contract attached to this. Nowhere does it explain what is the functional difference between us taking these over and MDOT remaining in control of them. I appreciate that there are examples of treatments or changes that we would have preferred be made to these roads that MDOT didn't agree to do. I see that, but if we were to take this on, are we endeavoring to pay for a study so that we are responsible for 100% of the cost to repair these roads? Is that what this is contemplating? Like, what is the cost? Is there anybody on staff who can explain, like, an MDOT trunk line? How much does MDOT take on in terms of the cost of maintenance of those roads versus roads that are entirely in our jurisdiction? That's what I'm interested in understanding.
Mr. Mahoney?
Both Mr. Hutchinson and Mr. Hess are available for questions.
I can try to field this one here. This is Nick Hutchinson, city engineer. Right now, on those trunk lines, MDOT has sole maintenance responsibility other than minor things like pothole filling and things like that, which we have a trunk line agreement for that.
Do they reimburse us for fixing potholes?
They do, yes.
Oh, okay.
If we were to take over the trunk lines, then the requirement to maintain those roads would fall completely on us. It would also increase our Act 51 dollars that we receive because we would have more miles of street. And typically what we've seen happen in other cases is that we would not take them over for free. There would also be a payment from MDOT to take them over as well. We don't know how much that would be, and that's all of these numbers are part of the considerations for the study.
I can't. I mean, having read the excuses or the reasons why we would want to pursue this so that we could have decision-making power, I can't possibly support this. This doesn't. I appreciate you answering that question, Nick. Thank you so much. Yeah, this sounds like I can't even imagine us drawing the conclusion that this was worth our while. So I can't imagine spending $134,000 to find out how much it's going to cost.
Councilmember Iyer. Councilor Briggs.
Yeah, thanks. So just to speak a little bit more about what the implications are for this community, and particularly in the 5th Ward that I represent. For example, one of the roads is Huron and Jackson that goes through the 5th Ward. As Councilmember Romlowy is all too aware through the community meetings that we've sat through, this is a huge concern to residents along that roadway that see the speeding and the cars and dangerous behavior and are witness on a daily basis the really unsafe conditions that our residents need to transverse in our community. So, for example, where the Salvation Army is, where there's a food bank, residents need to travel over 4 lanes of traffic to get to a transit stop. They do this in the winter, and I observe them carrying food with them, trying to make their way safely across the street. There's a school that folks go across to try to get to. And we have countless times asked MDOT at this location and many locations across our community to please partner with us and please to create safe streets for our community. In fact, MDOT has a complete streets policy, and so it's a little bit unconscionable that they aren't following this policy. However, they have not, and so this is one reason of many that we need to be exploring this. We have a transportation plan that our residents have called for. This is it's important that we look at how we improve access and safety of our roadways and also the appearance of them. So I'm sure I'm forgetting a couple of points that came up, but I'm sure others will cover them.
Councilmember Iyer.
Thank you. I will gladly support this. I can think of quite a few examples in recent history, last 5 years or so, of people being either killed or critically injured on these particular roads, whether on bike or crossing. And, even when the crosswalk lights are there and working, the problem is the design of the streets and the speed, and we have no control over those factors when we don't control the road. And I think this is well worth the money to spend to do the study and to take these over and to make the improvements if it saves even one life in our community. So I will gladly support it.
Councilor Grand.
Thank you. Much of what I wanted to say has already been said, but I'll point out on the east side of town that on Washtenaw in particular, I've had a number of residents beg to see if we can slow down the speed on that road for students that are going to tap in, for people who live at Washtenaw Hill, which is just a stone's throw from Angel Elementary, and there's lots and lots of pedestrian traffic, and every year they see cars up on the sidewalk up on people's front lawns, and they've begged. And it's a terrible feeling to be completely helpless as a council member when you know that it really is in the hands of MDOT, and that we can ask, but they're unlikely to make those changes. So I think it's incredibly important to get these answers, to understand the trade-offs, and these are big decisions. So spending some money to do a study to understand what those trade-offs are, I think will be critically important, because we will have well, it won't be me, but you all will have hard decisions to make, and I think this is a good use of those dollars.
Councilmember Dish.
I wanted to ask Mr. Hess if he would correct me and also add if I am wrong. Is it all right if I ask a question of Mr. Hess? Because there have been some meetings with MDOT about North Main Street, and my understanding was that we don't know anything for sure, but that it is possible to negotiate with MDOT to make many of the design improvements that we want on North Main, not just a reduction of speed, but bike lanes, and to open that up to a pedestrian-friendly entrepreneurial zone where it is right now a highway that leads into the heart of our town. Did I misunderstand that, Mr. Hess? Is there not a possibility of negotiating with MDOT to making some improvements before we take it over?
Councilmember Dish, Raymond Hess again. So my understanding is MDOT scope for North Main, first of all, that currently is programmed for fiscal year 2026. My understanding is, from their eyes, it's a resurfacing project, and they were going to put it back the way it is. It has been a ongoing point of discussion with MDOT that, that's a heavily used active transportation corridor because of all of the destinations that are on that side of town. But my understanding is unless the city kicks in a contribution for upgraded facilities for bicycle, pedestrian, or other safety improvements, that MDOT is just going to put it back the way it is. Now, MDOT has also said, quite honestly, oftentimes they say, well, the city can always take over the roadway if they so choose. And so I think part of the reason for this study is to help answer that question and help evaluate if, that option is tenable to, the city and city council. So, we have brought up that, the city has several policy documents that call for active transportation up there, as well as, MDOT policies that call for complete streets. But as of right now, it doesn't look like they're going to incorporate those elements in the project design.
But might they if we took it? Might they if we took it over? Might that be part of the negotiation? We'll take it, but you help us do these things, rather than just resurfacing it.
Right, and I think Mr. Hutchinson can help me respond here, but I think that's exactly part of, trying to get a full picture of what taking over that section of roadway might look like. What are the cost benefits? What are the trade-offs? What are the long-term costs? What are some of the, both financial benefit and costs, but also some of the soft benefits and costs related to that. So, Nick?
Yeah, you got it. Yeah, it's certainly something that could be that could be included in future negotiations. We've seen this done a couple of different ways, but it's not very common. So, yes, there's things like that could be included in those discussions.
Councilmember Hayner.
Thanks, Mr. Hutchinson. Well, you got the hot mic there. Act 51 funds, did they come unencumbered? Must they be spent on the corridor in which they have been gathered from? Or are Act 51 funds fungible? Can they be spent elsewhere in our pool of road resources?
Yes, they can. They're somewhat fungible. They're tied to the classification of road that they come in for. So major street. Money that comes in for major streets needs to be spent on major streets.
Oh, okay.
Money for local streets on local streets. But other than that, it goes into a pot. It's not tied to a specific roadway.
Yeah, so when we are concerned about the concerns that we're expressing here about, do we have funds to, deal with these? We might, if they're applied to these very streets. And I know, like, we talk about the dangers of the speed south of Hill on Washington. It's terrible there. Well, also what is terrible there is the area between the, basically the gutter area. There's some potholes that are, and I have 31-inch tires on my truck, and they're insane, these potholes. And so that street needs some major repair there. It's very dangerous at the speeds. I live on Pontiac Trail, which is posted 25. If we use MDOT's formula of taking the percentage of the average speed, I paraphrase, the average speed on Pontiac Trail is probably 35, 40 miles an hour. And it's super neighborhood. I mean, it's two elementary schools, 6 crosswalks, 7 crosswalks, in a couple blocks of my house. I wonder how long it will take if we take these over and we start saying 25 and start interjecting bike lanes and so on for it to actually be 25 on these streets. Because they're trunk lines and people are used to treating them as such, just like they treat Pontiac Trail as such. And it's unfortunate that postings don't always change behavior, and neither does road geometry. I don't know. I'm not a fan of studies, so I'm not going to support this. I'm sure it'll pass, and we'll find out that it's going to be a small fortune. So, let me just say something real quick. I'm sorry. For years, North Main is. Every parcel in North Main is in active use by a small business that gives back to our community.
Councilmember?
It doesn't need to be entrepreneurialized.
Councilmember Song.
I'm trying to reconcile our excitement over MDOT's evaluation and study that we're encouraging residents to participate in regards to the M14 Barton Drive exit and entrance, and how we ourselves have been talking about decades of lost opportunity and making sure that's a safe on and exit ramp. I see this as a similar effort in evaluating what our options are, our options to negotiate with MDOT. I also see this in line with what we voted for at the last meeting when we're talking about taking on ownership and control over our decision-making power. So if we're eager to approve a contract to evaluate our ability to control municipal power, I would hope that we'd be able to at least have this start in negotiating what our options are to control some essential roadways where we know there are a number of commuters coming in and out of town, 80,000 every day, and where we need to address not only just maintenance, but speed, and have this community engagement outside of what we're saying at this table. I'm eager to see the results. I'm eager to get this work started. So I am in favor of this.
Further discussion? Councilor Nelson.
I need some clarification from something that I feel like I heard from Mr. Hess. When Councilmember Dish was asking you about some of the negotiations around improvements to North Main, what I heard you say was that in negotiating with MDOT, MDOT would suggest that some of the amenities that we would be requesting or wanting were things that we would have to pay for ourselves, which sounded to me like there was an option short of taking over responsibility for the entirety of the road to get some of these changes that we're asking for. Did I mishear you, Mr. Hess?
No, Councilmember, you're correct. I think, so one of the things that MDOT has said, and maybe I didn't elaborate entirely, MDOT still would have control over the roadway, so they would have ultimate say about whether, what that final configuration would be, what bicycle, pedestrian, or transit elements would be incorporated, so forth and so on. But if they were to agree to some of those elements, they have indicated that the city it would be on the city's dime in order to incorporate those into the design of the roadway, because right now they are just resurfacing curb to curb. They're not putting in sidewalks. They're not putting in, anything else. And so they, have to agree to what it is the city would suggest, but then the city would have to pay for anything above and beyond that resurfacing curb to curb, as I understand it.
Okay, thank you. Well, I mean, I guess I can't help but point out that we actually have quite a lot of evidence before us that the amount of money that we would be getting in from the state in return for taking on these roadways is clearly inadequate to maintain them, like across the city. I mean, we have an example that we just found out a few days ago that we don't have enough money to cover Scioto Church Road, which residents have been waiting several years for improvements on. And frankly, as far as the comparison to public power, that's not a very good comparison because we actually know how much money is squandered by DTE, and in this case, we know how short of funds we are in trying to maintain the roads that we have. I will not be able to support this study. I just can't conceive of how this would ever be a good idea to do. We already know that we can't afford to fix the roads that we already have jurisdiction over.
Councilmember Ramlawi.
Thank you. A lot of what has been discussed here has been good. Unfortunately, it's the deaths and injuries that occur on all our roadways, not just MDOT roadways. I know Fifth Ward residents have been upset with the lack of progress over there on Jackson and on the other street as well, the one that we control, Dexter, for safety improvements that have been slow in coming. But from what I understand, if we are going to be installing some safety improvements with the ARPA money that was received shortly. We have a lot of speeding, on roads that we control, and yet we do very little about that. Miller, South 7th, two great examples where speeders are constant. Residents have raised their concern dozens and hundreds of times. I don't think it's a good idea for us to take this over. And I also will, the comparison of muni power and this is just apples to oranges. We're talking about an existential crisis with climate change and needing to get to carbon neutrality. These roads don't necessarily address that. So, again, buying their assets and being responsible for it, that's what I heard, correct, Mr. Hutchinson? We'd have to buy these assets, not just take them over and maintain them, but I guess the comparison that could be made to muni power is that we would have to buy these assets. I'm not sure if I heard that correct, though.
No, we wouldn't be buying the assets. In all likelihood, MDOT would pay us money to take them.
Okay.
We don't know how much that is, and there's not really a process for that, which is what the study would address.
All right, I appreciate you clarifying that. In any regard, again, I don't have any confidence that we can do this, and why waste $150,000 of taxpayer dollars? I won't be supporting it. Thank you.
Councilmember Iyer.
Thank you. Since the Scioto Church project has come up twice now tonight, and the last statement that was made about it was not really applicable to this situation, I just did want to take a minute to correct the record as far as why that project isn't going forward. It's not that that we suddenly ran out of money to do the project. It's that the lowest bid, when it was finally bid out, came in 193% over the city's estimate. And the reason for that is that, due to factors that were out of the city's control in terms of state and federal permitting, the project wasn't able to get started. There are supply chain issues now that contractors are dealing with, and more importantly, now it would have to be stretched over 2 seasons, and that adds tremendously to the cost. So just wanted to make sure that people understood why that is not going forward this year, and that's it. Thank you.
Further discussion? Councilmember Song.
Mr. Hess, can you walk us through how negotiating these trunk lines has worked out in our favor without additional information from a study like this has been like?
Well, there have been some examples in the 4 years I've been at the city where the city council has passed resolutions in support of something which MDOT has not accepted. The clearest one I can recall is when the DDA was proposing off-peak on-street parking along Huron. In order for MDOT to consider that, they required a positive vote by City Council. City Council did pass that back in 2019, I believe, and then MDOT did not approve it. And then in terms of, just what would entail beyond that, it's hard to know exactly. The most recent example that we can see is Kalamazoo has gone through a process by which to accept some state trunk lines that go through their community. And as Nick mentioned, MDOT paid the city of Kalamazoo to do that. And then Kalamazoo took over ownership and responsibility for those roadways. So, it's hard to know exactly which of the roadways might make sense. And that's why we think the study is before you today for your contemplation, if it makes sense to you as well.
So, to my understanding, the study is just the beginning of a conversation to understand what our options are. Correct? It's not a predetermined either or. It's just exploring what our options are.
That's correct.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Further discussion? I'm, of course, going to be voting in favor of the study. I've been here at council since 2008, and there are many, many times, some articulated here, where the concerns, pleas, creativity, aspirations of our community with respect to its transportation infrastructure, its built infrastructure, have floundered on the shoals of MDOT's conservatism. Whether it's North Main, Huron, Jackson, out Tappan Way, Washtenaw, these are areas of our community where we are unable to affect change. We're unable to affect change because MDOT owns these roadways. With the study in hand, we would be able to determine whether it is feasible financially, as a matter of maintenance, as a matter of fiscal prudence, to thereafter take over the roadways and then design them, maintain them, improve them in a way that meets our community aspirations. Without this information, we will be unable to do those things, and the status quo with respect to these roadways, which is frankly not satisfactory to anyone, I believe, in the community, will persist. Further discussion? Roll call vote, please, starting with Councilmember Hayner.
Councilmember Hayner?
No.
Councilmember Dish?
Yes.
Councilmember Griswold?
No.
Councilmember Song?
Yes.
Councilmember Grand?
Yes.
Councilmember Dina?
Yes.
Mayor Taylor?
Yes.
Councilmember Iyer?
Yes.
Councilmember Nelson?
No.
Councilmember Briggs?
Yes.
Councilmember Ramlawi?
No.
Motion fails.
Public hearing number one. We now come to a set of public hearings. Public hearings are opportunities for members of the public to speak to council and the community about the specific subject matter of the public hearing. That is to say, the specific agenda item to which the public hearing relates. Speakers at public hearings do not need to have signed up in advance, but their speech must relate to the specific subject matter of the public hearing. In all cases, speakers will have 3 minutes in which to speak, so please pay close attention to the time. You will be notified when 30 seconds are remaining and when your time has expired. When your time has expired, please conclude your remarks and cede the floor. Public hearing number one, an ordinance to amend Chapter 55, zoning, rezoning of 0.15 acres from C1B Community Convenience Center District to PUD, Planned Unit Development District 340 Depot, zoning and supplemental regulations 340 Depot. Is there anyone who would like to speak at this public hearing?
Thank you, Mayor Taylor. I'm Ken Garber, 28 Haverhill Court. Very nice to be with you tonight. There are some real benefits to this project, including 4 housing units, some office or retail, possible removal of contaminated soil, But to me, 340 Depot mostly illustrates just how low our city standards are for sustainability in new construction. No building electrification, as far as we know. No rooftop solar. There's a green roof, which is nice. But architect Tim McDonald reminded Energy Commission last week that rooftop solar is completely compatible with green roofs. It's not one or the other. Let's compare 340 Depot with a different PUD, 1815 North Maple. Planning Commission reviews that one tomorrow. Those apartments are coming in with 90 kilowatts of rooftop solar, full building electrification, and on-site battery power storage. 1815 North Maple is an exceptional plan, but it shouldn't be. Strategy 2, Action 1 of the 820 plan includes the following assumption, quote, all new residential and commercial buildings are designed and built to operate without the use of natural gas, end quote. We can't always enforce it, but it's there. Local developers know this, so they've learned to avoid using the G word, gas that is. But that doesn't mean they're not putting it in. Here are some developer quotes from recent Planning Commission meetings. Quote, he is not objecting to doing electrification. It is one option he is considering. That's Maple Cove 2. Here's 212 Miller. Quote, we'll be looking at everything as we get further into the project, end quote. 330 Detroit Street. We honestly are not sure what we will be using for our heating and cooling system. We're working through it, end quote. As for 340 Depot, they said they'd study it after Planning Commission approval. Notice the pattern? It's deflection, not discussion. No talk about upfront costs, lifetime ROI, supply chain issues, energy use intensity, coefficients of performance. Information that would be useful to the commissions, to staff, and the public. That would legitimize the discussion. When they say it's too soon to talk, what they're really saying is, it's none of your business how we heat our buildings. You can bring up parking, stormwater setbacks, curb cuts, floor area ratio, but stay out of our basement mechanical rooms. They do have a point. Building code does not require electrification in new construction. At the same time, it's not some nice extra. It's not an option. It's not something we hope developers will consider. It's official city policy as of June 1st, 2020, the night City Council passed the 820 plan.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak at this public hearing? Ms. Beaudry?
Caller with the phone number ending in 534. Do you have a comment? Go ahead.
Good evening. This is Tom Stolbert calling from Lower Town in Ann Arbor. I want to support what the last caller, Ken Garber, said. I'm sorry, I'm calling in. He may have been in person. Every single project, whether we approve it or don't, should have a measurement of the deficit that it will put us in our carbon neutrality. Because we're going to have to make up for that deficit. So we should start measuring it with every single application. Everything we build now that is not built sustainably creates a deficit that we must overcome in order to reach our 820 2030 carbon neutrality goals. There should be no projects that come to the city without that number attached to them so that we can measure how much of a hole we've dug ourselves into if we approve that project and that we have to dig ourselves out of if we're going to meet our 820 goals. Overall, I like most of this project. It does meet the comprehensive plans, providing mixed use at that location, which its neighbor, the Garnet, did not at the time. The Garnet was eventually approved pretty much as a compromise because it had some inappropriate requests in its original application. So compromises were made and the comprehensive plan was not met. But we did get $9,000 a unit from the Garnet for our affordable housing fund. So there was some give and take. In this case, I do appreciate the mixed use. If we're going to have walkable neighborhoods, we're going to need that mixed use. That is a benefit from this location that will be very valuable to that neighborhood, given its location near the train station, near other residential, Right now, it's very heavily skewed residential. Hopefully, in more time, there'll be more to come in terms of mixed use. We also have the tree line trail that's going to come to that area, which again would provide some use. Some mixed use would get used at that location if it's appropriately. I know we can't control what the tenant mix would be. So overall, I would love to support this project. I would hope that we could build it sustainably.
30
and
seconds.
I would insist that every building be measured for its sustainability, whether it's approved or not approved. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mayor, I don't have any other callers with their hands up.
Seeing no one, public hearing number 1 is closed. Public hearing number 2, resolution to approve 340 PUD site plan, 340 Depot Street. Is there anyone who'd like to speak at this public hearing?
Thank you, Mayor Taylor. Ken Garber again. Site plan this time. I just spoke about how developers have learned to deflect the gas question. Here's how it went down with 340 Depot. A year ago at the citizen participation meeting, architect Wayne Chugg said, quote, "We are investigating an all-electric building," end quote. In January 2022, Ted Hirsch of Midwestern Consulting wrote the city that, quote, "The owner, project architect, and MEP team continue to review this opportunity for this project. However, they are not able to fully commit to an electric energy only project," end quote. Then on June 7th, architect David Nims told the Planning Commission, quote, "The owner has been reluctant to pursue any further engineering on the project due to the fact that he was uncertain as to how these initial hearings would go. The owner wanted some guarantee before he took on the extra cost," referring to the cost of the study, engineering mechanical study. The Planning Committee then approved the site plan. And I have just one more quote for you. At that June 7th meeting, Commissioner Shannon Gibb Randall said this to the developer about electrification of the project. She said, "You had indicated in the beginning that the owner wanted some sense of security, and it seems, based on the conversation tonight, that we are giving you a sense of security. And so I would hope in your pursuit of this, as the building develops further, if that's truly the reason, that you would actually explore this in an authentic way in terms of the reality of what we're dealing with as a society." She's obviously alluding there to climate change. Commissioner Gibb Randall then added, "We hope that you will rise to the occasion so as to be able to be part of solutions that we are grasping at, frankly, at this point," end quote. So here we are 3 months later. My question is, will 340 Depot be all electric? I would love to hear that tonight, because if not, that sets back our 820 plan goals by another 64 metric ton CO2 equivalent emissions annually. That's just from burning gas every year for the next 50 years, probably. This is a small project, but it's one of many, and the gas emissions add up. If we're serious about emission reductions and the 820 plan, this needs to stop. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak at this public hearing? Ms. Bildrick?
Caller with the phone number ending in 534, go ahead.
Hello, this is Tom Stallberg again. I met with a developer earlier today and had the following discussion about a project that I'm working on and looking for development partners in. That project is not going to have a sustainable building mandatory for it. But I said I wouldn't dream of building it without it. I'm also looking at some redevelopment opportunities that some new zoning changes have created for my investment group. And again, I've already been telling people it will be built sustainably. It will be built electric heat, electric appliances. There's no option at this point in time, if we're going to take 820 seriously, if we're going to take climate change seriously, that we need to do this. And I wouldn't dream of doing it any other way myself. So I hope the developer of this project would contemplate that. Now, we've been told as citizens that there's a whole lot of things that we can't do. This has been said by planning commission, city council people, other people, of members of the public. But as a developer, I know there's a lot that we can do, and we can do a lot more than what we're doing. I think the current TC1 proposal is an absolute sham for not including sustainability, either through requirements or inducements. And you should not pass that mass rezoning when it comes to you for that reason. We just eliminated parking minimums. Why didn't we do that as a trade-off for sustainable building? Why did we give it away when we could have traded for it? There's plenty of very easy, mild trades that we can offer developers in every project that they would take. Very minor amounts of costs compared to the savings and enrichment that we're giving them. But we're giving it away instead of trading it. There's development options in our code, and we can have more of those. And that's the way we need to be working to create inducements, if not requirements, for sustainable building. We have the housing code. Any building that's going to be rented needs a certificate of compliance. There's ways we can work with our housing code, not just our building code, to start influencing this. And I know that's coming in
30 seconds.
2023 in terms of our existing rental stock, but we could be doing things now for new construction using the various tools we have. It's simply a lack of imagination that we're not doing it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, there are no other callers with their hands up.
Thank you. Seeing no one, this public hearing is closed. We have before us A1, the regular session meeting minutes of September 6, 2022. May I have a motion, please, to approve these minutes? Moved by Councilmember Griswold, second by Councilmember Dish. Discussion of the minutes. All in favor? Opposed? Minutes are approved. B1, an ordinance to amend Chapter 55, zoning, rezoning of 0.15 acres from C1B Community Convenience Center District to P1 PUD, Planned Unit Development District 340 Depot Zoning and Supplemental Regulations 340. Moved by Councilmember Hayner, second by Councilmember Dish. Discussion, please, of B1. Councilmember Dish.
I really wish that we didn't have to have this talk about electrification project by project, because it doesn't put us on solid ground. I wish that we had something in our code that would require this of everyone. That being said, this project does come to us as a PUD. We don't have to approve this zoning if we don't want to, if we want to add more requirements to it. The difficulty with this project is that it does present a couple of trade-offs. Obviously, for me, a non-gas development is the first thing that I want. But it is the thing that we, Planning Commission, can't force. And in this case, with this development, it's coming to us as a PUD because the petitioner asks merely that we waive the 15-foot conflicting land use buffer for the east and south sides of the parcel. That's the part, the east part is the part that's up next to the garnet. So that's not a very big thing that petitioner is being given. And I believe that the view on the Planning Commission was that the petitioner's not asking for much. There's only so far we can ask them to go, absent something in the city code that we can stand on. This is an infill project. That means that it uses existing utility infrastructure to make a better use of space than was there before. It will provide 4 small residential units, 3 of which will not be larger than 775 square feet. They will be relatively affordable. They will not be affordable 30 to 60% of AMI, but they will be relatively affordable by virtue of their size. They will be located in the most walkable area possible, within walking distance of grocery stores, coffee shops, bars, restaurants, and a nice but not excessive walk to the university, both to the hospital and the campus. So there are aspects of this project, just structural aspects of this project, that will that can reduce the carbon footprint of the people who live there. It has been mentioned already that there's a cleanup of contaminated soil, which is a good thing, and 2,000 square feet of a vegetated roof to reduce the cooling and heating load of the building. I understand that it falls short of what we need to meet our climate emergency. It offers benefits, and again, we are not where we need to be in terms of our regulations to be able to enter these kinds of negotiations with developers.
Councilmember Hayner.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'll speak just to the rezoning aspect here under B1 and some comments about the rest of it under DB1. Yeah, the conflicting land use buffers on this is with many infill projects are kind of a challenge, and so that's what initiated that, the PUD request and so on. And I think it's a good point that my council colleague, ward colleague made that, it is infill, and so that should be what it's all about in these near downtown areas. When we did the A2D2, right, and we have really millions of undeveloped square feet in the downtown area that just waiting with potential. And really, I would love it if we had focused on building up the downtown core, but it's infill and large zoning outside of the downtown core. Of course, it makes a little more money for the developers. Not in this case, but that's kind of where we're going. We're getting away from that downtown core a little bit, which is kind of unfortunate. But I'm going to support this to PUD. It shows that Planned Unit Development District still has, a merit. Absent a community benefits ordinance or program here in place in the community, it's the best opportunity we have, really, to have a back and forth with the developer at this stage. And so I'm going to support this rezoning, and I'll reserve the rest of my remarks for the comment on the actual site plan. Thank you.
Further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? It is approved. DB1, resolution to approve 340 Depot PUD site plan, 340 Depot Street, moved by Councilmember Dish, seconded by Councilmember Hayner. Discussion, please, of DB1. Councilmember Hayner.
Thanks. So I know this building, and I have met the owner on occasion, and the person who maintains this building also over the years. And Mr. Pfaff has a history of modest rents at this location, and I think that's commendable in this community. When I asked him, will you consider making this building all electric? He said, sure. But we don't know enough about the long-term costs and benefits of operating an all-electric building. And that sounds to me like a businessman taking care of his business, and that's okay, I said a while back that, and I agree with what Mr. Garber has said repeatedly, and some of the other callers, Mr. Stahlberg and others, that, and some of my council colleagues here, that we shouldn't be approving any buildings that aren't going to meet the criteria of what we're expecting to have all buildings be in 2030, 2035, based on our 820 plan from a couple Junes ago. And so, I don't make a lot of promises on this body, but that's one I made, and so I'm not going to vote for this, although I think it should be allowed to be built, because we're certainly letting other buildings much larger be built, including the one we just said okay to on Stadium in the consent agenda. So, and that one kind of slipped by me. I shouldn't have voted for that one either. I believe that it is hypocritical of us to ask for a millage, to say all these things, to hang it out there that all we expect retrofit of existing buildings, but we don't hold the line on new development to be the way it's supposed to be. That building is going to be standing here in 2035. So despite the owners, I'm just going to say no for that reason, although I think it's an okay building. And I honestly believe that a little bit more back and forth with Mr. Pfaff would yield a building that is all electric if it indeed had the benefits to the owner of the building. And, you know, that's kind of up in the air right now. We're pushing on this utility, this publicly owned utility real hard. And we're telling people, hey, build your stuff all electric and then trust us to provide that juice for you forever. And so that can be nerve-wracking for somebody who's putting a couple $1 million into a building. So I certainly understand where he's coming from by not wanting to make that commitment on paper as part of this development agreement, but he has certainly made it in casual and somewhat formal conversation to myself and perhaps others that he is perfectly willing to look into electrifying this building. So I just wanted to share that with the body.
Councilmember Briggs.
Yeah, I'd like to thank those who've come tonight and asked us to do more on this project. I think your call is important. I will admit to being very torn on my vote on this and having wavered a little bit on what I think is appropriate on my vote on this. Ultimately, I believe that we have to have consistency in how we approach our planning work, and that we understand how the code is supposed to operate. PUDs do allow us additional flexibility and additional ability to negotiate with developers for community benefit. But we need to acknowledge the level of ask that is being asked for by this project, which is very, very minor, and factor that into our decision making. I do also think that we need to need to do our work to make sure that the buildings that are being built in the future in our city very consistently are being held to a standard of being all electric. However, to do that work, it is requiring pretty extensive work on the part of our planning department, our Department of Office of Sustainability and Innovation, and our legal department to understand where we have the ability to do that and do it consistently across our community. While I would like to have that code in place right now, I feel confident that we are moving in that direction and moving in that direction as quickly as we can. That means that we are in this in-between time period, and there are going to be projects that I'm voting for that I don't feel that I wish were a little bit more. But tonight I'll be supporting this. I think it is appropriate, the community benefits that are being offered in exchange for the level of ask.
Councilor Dish.
I was very cheered to hear that my ward council compatriot has had good conversations with this developer. That bodes well for the future. And I wanted to offer some other cheerful news, which is only on the topic because it was brought up, but that's CA15 University Inn project that we approved will replace an existing hotel with a 185-unit apartment building. It will be all electric. No gas lines are proposed for that development. It will be energy-efficient appliances, LED lighting, and there will be recycling in every trash room. It is a very green project.
Further discussion? Councilmember Rumlowy.
Thank you. I'll just speak on this because I just have a few meetings left. We talk about consistency and the desire for that. I can only hold myself to that, and I know I've been trying to be as consistent as possible. And they say government is where the sausage is made. This is another example of some sausage, and I don't know what the future holds. I definitely think these kind of decisions are. There's only going to be a few more that are going to be afforded to be made. The kicking the can down the road and saying, don't let the perfection be the enemy of good. Sort of thinking go along is not going to be something you're going to be able to afford to do going forward. When we talk about other matters, I'll chime in more. But it's good to have these opportunities and these public discussions so that the developers and other members of our community hear us And it's great to do things administratively, cut the red tape so we can deliver more housing, lower costs, and not burdened by council's inaction or deliberations or excessive deliberations. But I do believe there is a value to having these conversations publicly so developers and others can hear what we're looking for. And just would hope that the developer would find it somewhere to go ahead and make this a full electrification. Would be a great project for that, obviously. But when we go to do other upzoning, I just hope that we approach it with the zeal that we approach bike lanes and density, where we embed features in the zoning ordinances to do what we keep saying we don't and can't do with our building codes. So we do have opportunity to do it. We just have failed to act in the past. And as we move forward, just remember this. You actually can do something when you do things like TC1. Because this is a situation where you're telling people the building codes don't allow us. So hopefully we can see some consistency there.
Further discussion, Councilmember Saul.
Do we have staff online?
Yes.
Can you explain if denying the PUD, what this means for the petitioner and process? And yes, can you just review for us what the impact, what the next steps would be if this was denied?
If the site plan was denied, the zoning was just approved, so they would have to go back through the process for another site plan approval, I suppose. And the last, it would basically go, once the zoning on the project is approved, then that would in effect be a by right project. So then it would only have to go back to planning commission for a new site plan to be approved.
And then the timeline for when we've denied PUDs in the past, what is the timeline for a petitioner to come back? What has been kind of an estimated timeline? I mean, I'm assuming that increases costs for development.
It would be an entirely new submission fee, absolutely. So just as far as the city fees, it's a whole new submission fee, and it'd have to go through obviously the city review process again. It'd probably be a little bit of a quicker review process if it was essentially the same project. However, they would also obviously add probably to their consultant fees as well at that point. Timeline, there's no strict requirement in the code, or not should I say requirement or a limit in the code of when they can come back and reapply. So in theory, if it was denied, they could probably reapply for the site plan approval in the next month.
Okay, I appreciate that. The reason why I ask these questions is that I sense that in talking about development, we often take this position that it's only a benefit to the developer, when I think at this table we've talked about welcoming new neighbors. And if this is a pretty minor ask of the city, I sense that we've approved similar PUDs along these lines. One last question. Didn't we approve a similar PUD for Avalon? Am I not remembering correctly? No. I'm just thinking of the size, the parcel size that we're talking about, 0.15 acres, and why we're debating so hard.
Yeah, that one was a little bit larger as far as residential. As far as the ultimate build out of it, I think the parcel was similar in size. I mean, this is a relatively small project at 3 stories or so. So yeah, the scale is a little bit different.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Further discussion? Roll call vote, please, starting with Councilmember Hayner.
Councilmember Hayner?
Soft no.
Councilmember Dish?
Yes.
Councilmember Griswold?
Soft yes.
Councilmember Song?
Yes.
Councilmember Graham?
Yes.
Councilmember Rodina?
Yes.
Mayor Taylor?
Yes.
Councilmember Iyer?
Yes.
Councilmember Nelson?
Yes.
Councilmember Briggs?
Yes.
Councilmember Mlawi?
Yes.
Motion carries.
C1, an ordinance to add sections 8531 to Chapter 105, the Housing Code of Title 8 of the Code of the City of Ann Arbor. Moved by Councilmember Nelson, seconded by Councilmember Rodina. Discussion, please, of C1. Councilmember Nelson.
Thank you. I'm going to dispense with the really long, extended explanation of the long journey this ordinance has traveled. This is coming to our agenda after a postponement. I chose to let it remain on that agenda because I thought it was important that we have a public conversation about the various steps that it has taken to get to this point. Right now, it is on our agenda in the form that it was in a couple meetings ago. There was a meeting of the Renters Commission last week, and we had significant information from city attorneys. There was a lot of collaboration to make it better. So the original version that is on the agenda is not yet updated with the improvements, and there is a need for a substitution. And I will pass it off to my co-counsel liaison from the Renters Commission to explain the changes.
Councilmember Rodina.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to amend C1 with the final proposed amendment circulated by our city attorney's office earlier today, and that I've asked the clerk to please recirculate now.
Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Nelson. Discussion. Is that friendly to the body?
Oh.
Repeat.
We just replaced it. It's an amended.
Has that been circulated? I just haven't seen the. You're asking what is the substituted resolution?
Is the substitution friendly to the body?
I'm sending it around right
Mayor,
now.
perhaps it would also be helpful for me to explain it simply because it is different slightly than the public. Thanks. So when Renters Commission first met in early July, they immediately got to work on Right to Renew. They understood the urgency, scheduled special meetings to discuss the topic, indicated their support for the idea to us through a resolution and draft we've previously received. They did this acknowledging, as Councilmember Nelson pointed out, that a full legal analysis was still being completed and knowing that several edits still needed to be made. As a result, they appointed a subgroup of their body consisting of Commissioners Farah and Mukherjee, who we heard from earlier this evening, and Commissioners Rumel and Rosen, both attorneys themselves, to finalize the draft with council, city attorneys, and staff. For the last several weeks, I've been working with the subgroup to improve and complete the draft. We've repeatedly met with city attorneys to strengthen the language and engaged with Jennifer Hall at the Housing Commission to ensure we comply with federal and state requirements, both in this new language and now in the early leasing ordinance as well. Commissioners met with the Washington Area Apartment Association to gather their feedback and exchange ideas, which resulted in some additional edits. And Chair Farah, who we heard from tonight, has had conversations with renters, individual landlords, community organizations, unions, and housing service providers. He also joined Councilmember Song and I at this month's meeting of the HHSAB, where that body endorsed the idea pending that these changes be added. As stakeholder engagement and language updates were happening, Commissioner Rumel observed that every time we met, this draft gets better. This is how this process is supposed to work. Good defensible laws are created through thoughtful deliberation with relevant stakeholders asking questions and sharing ideas. And while this process did add some delays along the way, yes, sometimes good policy takes time, and even when we would like it to move more quickly. This amendment that I'm asking for us to adopt now will substitute in the final draft that was the result of all of this work and engagement. The specific language circulated by our city attorney's office today is not substantially different from the proposed language that was added to our packet by the Renters Commission last week. It is slightly reordered and reformatted for clarity, now stipulates that the acceptance of a renewal offer must be made in writing, and removes the severability clause from the language because it already exists generally in city code and would be duplicative. I also shared it with Chair Farah and Commissioner Rumel for their sign off earlier today, and they support moving it forward. I urge that you support this amendment. Thanks.
Councilor Hayner.
Thanks. Since I see our attorneys here, I have a question that I'd like to ask about this. In the language of this, it's subsection 2, and A and B, it says it talks about the terms of successive lease periods. And I assume that when that the use of that language terms means not only the duration of the lease period, but the cost of the rent, the utility, whatever, what would be in a lease, right? So, but we have not described or proposed any limits on that. Is that correct? So it's whatever the landlord. If the landlord says to a tenant, here's your lawful offering of your right to renew, and here's the successive lease. Oh, and by the way, your rent had to go up $180 because I'm paying another 3.76 mils this year or whatever in taxes. That's okay. That's for them to work out amongst themselves.
Yes, we can't control that.
So this, in no way would this be characterized as a rent control effort, because if the landlord doesn't control their rent, it's rent control, right? So.
Correct. We can't control the rent.
So it would be allowed under this lease for a landlord to say that, to say, hey, I'm happy to renew your lease, but it's going to be $200 more a month because of whatever, just because. That's perfectly allowed. The tenant can reject that. Does that enter into this penalty stream that is also later enumerated? I mean, what if they can't come to terms on this offered lease? What's the solution?
Well, the landlord has to make a good faith offer, and sometimes that term is subject to litigation, but that term is established in case law. This is where, quite frankly, enforcement might pose a challenge, but everybody in staff has acknowledged that to council.
Yeah, so it's possible. It's possible that we're in adopting this. We're leaving it up to the courts to decide what that good faith offer is.
That is possible.
Okay. Thank you. You can see how this is problematic with folks. I guess I wanted to get another thing in real quick. I think I got a couple seconds. I wish there was a better way to describe the parties to what we're dealing with here, because I think that some people take offense in what would be considered, I think, a colonial language, the use of the word landlord. And it should be property owner or lessor or something like that. I'm not trying to modify everybody the way that people choose to speak, but something about landlord just isn't sounding right to me. I think it amplifies that antagonistic relationship that landlords and tenants have. That's all. Thank you.
Is the amendment friendly to the body? Deeming it so. Further discussion of the main motion. Councilmember Rodino.
Thanks, Mayor. Tonight, thanks to the hard work of our Renters Commission, our city staff and city attorneys, the activism of hundreds of tenants and community organizations, and the residents who have been involved in working with us to finalize this product, including some landlords themselves, we have the opportunity to advance a meaningful law that will grant tenants a right to renew their housing lease unless the landlords can prove good cause not to renew. To those community members, particularly GEO's Housing Caucus, UM's Central Student Government, and Ann Arbor Tenants Rising, who began working on and talking about this idea with council long ago, thank you for your work, your initial draft, and your patience. As we've already heard, this policy is recommended by the American Bar Association as one of the 10 essential residential eviction laws that governments should implement across the country. It's endorsed by a number of engaged community organizations, supported by hundreds of tenants who have reached out to us directly or through petition, and has substantial support in our community. And with a majority of Ann Arbor residents reliant on the rental market for housing, this law will give our constituents more housing security, alleviate financial hardships associated with unwarranted and unwanted moves, and relieve some of the unsustainable market pressure placed on tenants to search for and secure new housing each and every year. Let's be clear, as we just heard, this is not a panacea for every challenge facing renters in our community. The Renters Commission is already working on a list of other priorities that need to be addressed, including the challenge of unrestricted, often non-refundable waitlist fees. And due to preemption constraints in state and federal law, this ordinance is still limited in scope. Because of that, as we have seen with the ELO, we should expect that while many landlords will continue to have generally positive, lawful, and good faith relationships with their tenants, there will also likely be some bad actors attempting to create and exploit loopholes to subvert the intent of the ordinance. We as a city should be prepared to rigorously enforce the ordinance, and as a policy body be prepared to revisit and strengthen it in the future. Despite that, I believe this is a strong first step towards rectifying an incredibly lopsided power imbalance in Ann Arbor's rental market, and I encourage my colleagues to advance this long overdue protection to second reading. And finally, now that we've amended this to the final updated language, I would ask that the clerk please add me as a co-sponsor. Thank you.
Further discussion? Councilmember Griswold.
I'd like to be listed as a co-sponsor, and I want to thank everyone who has worked on this for many, many months, including Councilmember Nelson and Councilmember Radina. And I also want to say that when you have good policy, you don't have to have lengthy discussion and a lot of disagreements at the council table. It's almost obvious. So I know it was a lot of work, but you guys are making it look easy. So thank you.
Councilmember Hayner.
Yeah, I had some complaints about the lack of property owners or lessors being, part of this conversation. That those concerns still exist. And we did get some, fair amount of information and emails from a handful of folks who expressed what I think are legitimate concerns. And we even felt the wrath of renter advocates who suggest that we're not qualified to even consider this because we don't currently rent. Well, I rented for 15 years, and I do currently rent, but in a commercial aspect. So I had 15 years of residential rental until I got it together and had the opportunity to buy a house. And now I experience commercial rental interactions with lessors. So I don't think you have to, that removes all trace of empathy. You think it's not like we're not empathetic with your concerns, but I do, and I will express the same concerns I expressed before. I'm going to support this tonight to move it to second reading because I'm interested in hearing what people have to say about it beyond the folks who are championing it, because unless the courts are willing to define good cause as inability to come to an agreement on an increased rent as operating costs and taxes and so on go up over the years, then they're not in control of their own rents, and it's de facto rent control. And rent control would be great, and I know people who've enjoyed it in Boston and New York City and all kinds of other places where it's allowed. End around it isn't the right way to go about it. So do we believe that, would that count as a good cause that they couldn't come to an agreement on the terms of a lease?
At this point, I think we're entering territory of advice, and if you want a closed session, I'm happy to go in there, but I feel that this discussion is more lengthy than I can just answer here.
Okay, I see Mr. Reiser's head on the screen now, so I know we're getting into something here. So I don't know. I guess that I will withdraw that question, but you can see where my concerns lie in this area.
Councilmember Iyer.
Thank you. I'm really pleased to support this tonight. I'd love to be added as a co-sponsor, please. And just my thanks to those who have worked so hard to bring this forward. Especially want to give a little kudos to Councilmember Radina, who's been working really hard in the working groups, I know, that really have tried to push this over the finish line so that it could come to us as quickly as possible. So thank you very much for all your work, and I'm happy to support it.
Councilmember Briggs.
Yeah, I'll be echoing Councilmember Iyer and Griswold's statements. I'd like to be added as a co-sponsor as well, but mostly appreciate the work of council members who've been working on this, and the Renters Commission and Geo, who's been advocating for over a year for this. I think this points to how important the role of our commissions are, and I'm really excited to see Renters Commission kick off with this really important piece of legislation, and I'm excited to see them move forward other pieces. We know this is that this is just one piece of the puzzle in terms of improving the rental environment in the city of Ann Arbor. One thing that I would ask for the city administrator to be thinking about, we obviously know that we have a little bit of a gap in terms of our staffing to be able to address this. Our legal office has been doing the heavy lifting on this, but moving forward, we're going to need to
to think about how enforcement occurs and evaluation of this, and all of the other work that our Renters Commission is going to be working on. And so in our next budget cycle, that's something that I'll be looking at, and I know others will be having conversations around as well.
Councilmember Dish.
I would like to be added as a co-sponsor as well, and I am pleased to see the deliberative approach that the Renters Commission, newly established and making great strides towards greater equity in the city, has achieved.
Councilmember Nelson.
Thank you. My remarks are sort of piggybacking off what Councilmember Briggs mentioned. Some of the bigger challenges that we encountered with the early leasing ordinance was a lack of public awareness around it, a really challenging situation around enforcement. And one of the advantages that this ordinance will have, it's going to complement the early leasing ordinance and assist in enforcement of that, I'm sure. But one of the advantages that this ordinance has in this year is we have the benefit of the Renters Commission that can be a deliberative body discussing whatever challenges come up. I know that all of us sitting at this table were receiving a number of emails in the last year about all of the problems related to the early leasing ordinance and trying to understand what a violation looked like, what enforcement could look like. The opportunities looking ahead are really also inviting a whole lot of work on the side of City Hall in making sure that tenants actually benefit from this ordinance. So, there's a lot of work ahead of us in making sure that this ordinance works. Thanks.
Further discussion, Councilmember Song.
So, following up on that statement, one of the early worries I had was in conversations with the Washtenaw Housing Alliance was a reflection on ELO and how they actually, as a nonprofit, had to expend resources in educating our community about ELO. Surprisingly, folks don't come to our website. I hope that that's a consideration as we roll this out in helping the community understand the real costs in not only just enforcing it, but getting the word out. Washtenaw Housing Alliance had to create flyers, educate new property owners, property managers who weren't made aware of it by the property owners. And I hope that we can acknowledge that that's something that city staff should be able to take on in not just on the enforcement end, but just informing folks that these are the changes out. I want to thank Council Members Nelson and Radina for this work. This work is really timely. I had a call this morning with Alpha House board members. We have a number of families who are living in their cars. For folks who might recall, if you follow the COVID emergency rental assistance funding, the federal funding that ended back in June. So at the county level, even though we have 4,000 households receiving rental assistance, we have 500 cases in our eviction courts. So this is it's a very difficult time for renters in our community at large, not only in Ann Arbor, but in the county. And I've had some really interesting chats with other officials in other municipalities who are really excited for this work. So kudos to you both for demonstrating how we can care for the community and lead come into some interesting partnerships with social service agencies, and hopefully a better understanding of what can be done with landlords and renters. If you don't mind, as an HSAB liaison, I'd like to also be added as a co-sponsor, and I thank you both for your work.
Further discussion, Councilmember Romlawi.
Thank you. Based on the number of co-sponsors, I can imagine this will pass at second reading. I will be supporting it here tonight. I do think it's not a silver bullet. There are many, don't want to call them loopholes, but areas that can be exploited, especially when you have the power, the imbalance of power between leaser and leasee. One's usually got bigger stacks, and big stacks can push around little stacks. And in this case, you really just need 2 months rent in order to make your problem go away. if that's how you perceive it. There is, going to perhaps be, like any change, unintended consequences. The ambiguity of good faith, good cause, who decides that? Well, from what I understand, it'll be the court system. Not sure if people who can barely afford their rent are going to be able to afford an attorney or be able to represent themselves in a way that somebody who owns a lot of assets can hire someone to represent their interests. But I do appreciate the work that's gone into this. I know it's not been easy when you're dealing with something like this. This is not some of the other cupcake ordinances that we pass or resolutions. This is a very thorny, difficult one. Again, it's first reading. I'll be supporting it. I'll be interested to hear what the other shareholders and stakeholders have to say in the time between now and then. So, thank you.
Further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? It is approved. DC1, resolution proposed Claire McKenna to the Energy Commission. Moved by Councilmember Radina, seconded by Councilmember Briggs. Discussion, please, of DC1. All in favor? Opposed? It is approved with 11 council members present, thus all voting in the affirmative, thus satisfying the 7-vote requirement. DC2, resolution to accept an easement, appropriate $47,710 from the general fund and approve reimbursement of road maintenance costs to the Devarin on the Park Association. Moved by Councilmember Dish, seconded by Councilmember Iyer. Discussion, please, of DC2. All in favor? Opposed? It is approved with 11 council members present, all voting in the affirmative, thus satisfying the 8-vote requirement. DC3, resolution to accept and appropriate Michigan strategic funds and approve certified local government grant agreement for the City of Ann Arbor Old Fourth Ward Historic District Renaissance Level Survey update in the amount of $45,000. Moved by Councilmember Hayner, seconded by Councilmember Dish. Discussion, please, of DC3. Councilmember Nelson.
I had to look at this really closely. There was an explanation about it being revised. I'm just wondering if you could offer an explanation of the significance of the revision.
Is there someone on staff able to answer the question? Mr. Mahoney?
I don't know if Jill Thatcher is available.
It says in the intro.
Frost.
I don't see Ms. Thatcher or Mr. Delacourt on the line.
It says in the intro. It says a resolution submitted to not contain required language necessary to appropriate the funds.
Yes, I appreciate that. I looked at it closely, and there was a difference in where it was going into the budget.
Yeah.
And I guess I was just curious for explanation about what the difference was in those sections of the budget. The original version had the funds received into the general planning fund, and now it's been revised so that those monies are appropriated to the planning department budget within the major grants programs fund. Okay, well, I guess if there's nobody to answer that question.
Further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? It is approved with 11 council members present, all voting the affirmative, thus satisfying the 8-vote requirement. DC4, resolution to restrict turns on red downtown, moved by Councilmember Briggs, seconded by Councilmember Dish. Discussion, please, of DC4. Councilmember Briggs.
Yeah, I'm going to be moving to postpone this resolution tonight. Perhaps fittingly, we need to address the issue of MDOT and our ability to, our lack of local control over MDOT roads in the downtown. So while this has been something that has been passed by Transportation Commission unanimously in August, and those questions recently came up. I think we just need a couple more weeks for the legal department to do a little bit of additional look at this, and there may be some additional language that we add into the resolution before we adopt it. I can maybe save the description for sake of time till the next meeting.
So when would you like to postpone it? When do you move it?
My understanding is the next meeting would be fine. Is that correct, Attorney Cower?
Next meeting should be fine. Thank you.
Okay.
Excellent. Is there a second on the postponement? Second by Councilor Iyer. Discussion of the postponement. Councilmember Griswold.
When this comes back, it would be helpful to have an education and enforcement component, as well as a statement from the police department on how this will be enforced. And lastly, equity. I'm not opposed to this. I think it's much more complicated than the resolution that we have. And I'm looking at, and other council members may want to look at what the District of Columbia has been doing with regard to identifying intersections for no right turn on red. And so equity in terms of if you're a professional worker, you don't have a time clock, so you're not under pressure to get to work. And so does this put an unnecessary burden on our employees who are on a time clock? I can't answer that question, but I think that everything we do as a council needs to have an equity evaluation. And so I'm asking for that. Thank you.
Councilmember Hayner on the postponement.
Yeah, I'm sorry we're postponing. I was looking forward to talking to about this tonight. I don't support any kind of blanket restriction on this. Our traffic is needs to be much more finessed than that. And so, I guess I'll support a postponement if we get to talk about it next week. But I think there's some odd things in here. I think the public would do well to take a look at what's going on here. I have no doubt it will pass like everything else, but I don't think it's a good idea, and I don't think there has been enough analysis of how various intersections in our community function that we can just say, hey, no this, no that. We got some intersections that are just nothing but cars sitting there stinking it up, idling, next to diners, next to just, it's a mess. And so, without looking at scrambles and other ways to alleviate the pedestrian and bicyclists that are the supposed object of dis-safety at these intersections, for lack of a better word, or in danger. I would think a bus sweeping a right on red.
Councilmember on the postponement.
Yeah, well, okay, I'm going to say no to it. I'd like to talk about it tonight. You bring this stuff up, let's talk about it.
Councilmember Briggs on the postponement.
Just wanted to add, since a couple of questions had come up, there was a full discussion at Transportation Commission that involved the engagement of the Ann Arbor Police Department, which has indicated that this would begin with an education campaign and then move towards enforcement after a period of time. This excludes transit from, or would make exceptions for transit. AATA was involved in the development of this, as was our engineering and planning transportation staff. And we can just save the rest of the discussion for the next meeting.
Councilmember Malawi on the postponement.
Well, it seems like it's the trailers are exciting. This is going to be an exciting meeting when we talk about this. I know I have some things to say. A lot of it has been touched on already. I don't think the same way I would have expanded on it. But I think equity is a huge issue. And I think, enforcement, being up here and I have, that's a tool that I don't think is very effective, and I think is inequitable. So if you're looking for enforcement, typically that's what ends up happening, but I'll save the rest for 2 weeks.
For the discussion, the postponement. Councilor Song.
I'm in support of the postponement as a co-sponsor. The big motivation to become a sponsor was that this work would have reduced crashes, we understand that crashes are 50% of crashes are due to not yielding. So if we can get more data on these scenarios, then I think it would really benefit our discussion next month. So thank you.
Councilor Griswold.
Yeah, I'd like to second that. So during the postponement period, if we can get more specific data, than just half of all crashes were a person walking or biking. They were killed or seriously injured, involved a driver failing to yield. If we could get information on cars making a right-hand turn, cars failing to yield when they were making a right-hand turn, and also in some cases under Michigan law, left turns are allowed. And so if we could get some more specific crash data, that would be great. Thank you.
Further discussion? Councilor Iyer.
Thank you. With all these new requests, I'm wondering if postponing just to the next meeting is possible, or if we might need to give them a couple of months to.
Thank you for bringing that up, because when I said 2 weeks, I was looking at it from a legal analysis. Frankly, I don't know how much work it will be to gather the data and look at it sort of more holistically. So could I please reserve the right to discuss this with administrative staff and get back on realistic timing?
That seems prudent to me.
Mr. Dohoney, if postponed to a date certain, it will come back on a date certain without regard to its readiness.
So my suggestion then would be to postpone by a month.
Mr. Dohoney, Mr. Hess, is that accord?
Mr. Mayor, the additional requests that have been made this evening, we would just be speculating on, could we get it all done in 2 weeks? I don't believe that we could. And I can't swear that a month is good enough, but we certainly can work on trying to make sure we have everything that people are asking for.
Perhaps we could roll with a month. And if you can't, you can't. If not, you're not.
I'd like to speak to the postponement.
We do have you're on the queue if you want to be on the queue for the postponement, you're on the queue for the postponement. Sorry, Councilor Grant.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think that, the conversation, while I appreciate the concerns, the conversation at Transportation Commission from Councilmember Briggs' report back, suggests that they have thought this through fairly clearly. The issue really seems to be, not, is it best practice in a downtown area to not, to always have no turn on red. I think we received a fairly informed decision from the Transportation Commission that worked with, a lot of different stakeholders, including our experts on staff. So if the only issue that was brought up from staff before was to bring this forward, I think, 2 weeks or whatever it is, first meeting in October seems like sufficient time to get those answers. We can always ask for more and delay, but this is an issue that's been brought up so many times in our community, and I don't see the need to just delay it unnecessarily. I think it really is time that we try to move forward, because we've had many speakers come to council themselves talking about times with accidents or near misses from, the lack of no turn on red. And part of the reason why I, was so pleased to hear that it was moving forward, because I approached Councilmember Briggs saying, when is this coming forward? We need to, I'd really like to see us get this done. So I think the first meeting in October, you can delay and add, but I'd really like to see this go.
For the discussion, the postponement to the first meeting in October, Councilmember Romlawi.
Well, this will be passed, whether it gets passed in October, November, or December is the only question. It would be nice to have the deliberations and the information and the data to make the best informed decision when it does get passed. I do support this, but I do think having a blanket restriction poses a solution that is less than equitable and less than sensible. And to have information as to where these crashes are occurring, what are the areas, and what time of days. I mean, do you really need to have no turn on red at 4 in the morning while there's nobody out on the street? I mean, are we going to have different times that is going to be enforced? Things like that. There was no map given on this. There were some just broad parameters of streets. It would be nice to see how many corners, how many stop signs, what area is going to be impacted. We had a speaker tonight bring up a very good point. We do own the streets in Ann Arbor, as the university does not. Why isn't the university areas included in this, where you have the most pedestrian conflict issues, especially when it's in session? So it's just having conversations like this so we can better craft ordinances that make sense, that people would adhere to, and that get enforced equitably, and that gives people faith in their government.
Further discussion of the postponement to the first meeting in October. Roll call vote, please, starting with Councilmember Hayner.
Councilmember Hayner?
No.
Councilmember Dish?
Yes.
Councilmember Griswold?
Yes.
Councilmember Song?
Yes.
Councilmember Grant?
Yes.
Councilmember Medina?
Yes.
Mayor Taylor?
Yes.
Councilmember Iyer?
Yes.
Councilmember Nelson? Yes. Councilmember Briggs?
Yes.
Councilmember Mlawi?
Yes.
Motion carried.
DC 5, resolution to require a mask at city council meetings consistent with CDC guidance. Moved by Councilmember Iyer, seconded by Councilmember Adina. Discussion, please, of DC 5. Councilmember Iyer.
Sure. Just by way of introduction and explanation, the CDC, of course, it was several weeks back now, but made quite substantial revisions to its COVID guidelines. And it became clear that our council policy was out of step with the CDC guidelines once they had made those changes. So we had a discussion about it at the admin committee at our most recent meeting, and it was the consensus that we bring this resolution forward that realigns us with the CDC and keeps us in alignment going forward.
Further discussion? Councilmember Grant?
Thank you. There was a question today. I would just like to point out that under this rule that all of us at the table would still be wearing masks because we're at level high. So it is stricter than what our schools are doing, for example, where it's recommended or strongly recommended. But if, so I think this policy really gets to, a happy medium and is stronger and allows us to still demonstrate best practices, but at the same time recognizes that I think it's just clear in terms of CDC guidelines. We also wanted to be a little more in line with what's happening at the city, because I think that was a point of confusion, that city staff were doing one thing and council was doing another. So I think they're still a little bit stricter than staff, but I think it gets us to a place, and of course the public can still always participate remotely, and I'm glad to see that we've been able to make that really seamless transition for both staff and the public.
Councilmember Griswold.
I'm wondering if we can add a whereas clause to acknowledge our working relationship with the Washtenaw County Health Department. Not that it needs to be in a resolve clause, but I think the Washtenaw County Health Department has been very important in providing guidance for us. Is that the case? Maybe staff can answer that.
Do you have a proposed amendment language?
Whereas the Washtenaw County Health Department has been very supportive and we recognize their expertise in this area. I don't know. If not, I can wait and acknowledge the Washtenaw County Health Department in a separate resolution. Okay. But I just thought that we were working closely with the health department.
Further discussion? Councilor Nelson.
I work in an environment where we are closely following guidelines like the CDC, and this agenda item is actually a little bit misleading. I got an email from, not intentionally misleading, but I think it's easily confused by people reading it, because when you see following CDC guidelines, it sort of gives the implication that we are enforcing higher standards, when actually this is looking ahead to imposing lower standards. The CDC does acknowledge that local municipalities have discretion, continue to have discretion to impose requirements that are higher than requirements. I'm not going to be able to support this because, well, first of all, I think it's poorly timed since the community infection rates are so high right now. I think a caller that we had earlier raised the point that, the CDC guidelines going down or relaxing and looking at the reality in front of us right now, like there's sort of a mismatch. And there are a lot of factors that have gone into these relaxed CDC guidelines that frankly don't apply to us. This is a body of 11 people. The work that we're doing is not about attracting customers or creating an environment that is more comfortable or appealing for people. Like we are doing work that needs to be accessible to everyone, including people who are vulnerable. This body meets every couple of weeks. At any point, a resolution like this one could come up, a change in policy could come up. It's strange to me that it would come up now when transmission rates are so high. I work in an environment where we are watching these guidelines and we are choosing to impose higher requirements on ourselves in terms of masking. And it feels like the right decision based on the environment we're in. And I would argue that we are in an environment where we should want to feel safe for more people who are vulnerable. And I know from conversations with people, I know from watching the behavior of people, we aren't at 100% of people saying, yeah, the CDC says it's masks are optional. I'm totally comfortable in spaces where half of the people are masked and half of them are not. I'm not going to be able to support this, and I think it's very important that the community understand that this is a move towards relaxing a requirement, not making a stricter one.
Further discussion? Councilmember Heener.
Yeah, thank you. When the Rules Committee got absorbed into the Admin Committee somehow, we create a lot of rules that were vague and subject to interpretation, and I see that this way too. I hate the notion of pegging our health decisions to a constantly moving federal standard when, as Councilwoman Griswold pointed out, the county health department has got the boots on the ground, to use an old expression. I'm not going to support this. I don't love the way it's written. I think it's unnecessarily vague, and I think it could very well, lead to sort of an arbitrary, either relaxing or strengthening of the standards under the mayor's emergency powers that he's still holds. And for that reason alone, I'm gonna say no to this.
Councilmember Briggs.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank the Admin Committee for bringing this forward. I think this makes sense for us to be following the recommendations of the Center for Disease Control. We are a community that tries to make evidence-based decisions and follow federal guidance and local health guidance on such matters. I appreciate that this is a little bit stricter in the sense that where when we have high transmission rates, it's not simply recommended for us, but it is required, and that's communicated to the public. That provides a higher level of safety and security within this space, and modeling of best practices that was already indicated. But it doesn't make much sense if we move down to low transmission rates to necessarily be in that same space a year from now. So, hopefully we're moving in a more positive direction. I think this makes sense.
Councilmember Umlaut.
Thank you. Since I wasn't at the admin meeting, trying to understand the material difference here in these two resolutions, R21-461 and the one that's being brought here, and the colleagues have discussed this, have said this is actually a watering down of the current standard that's in place. If I could have maybe what, by the sponsors or the folks from the admin committee, what effective material difference between the one passed in 21 versus this, and further, the CDC has been all over the map, the last 2.5 years. It's unfortunate that this virus and pandemic has been politicized to the 10th degree, and trust me, it was here as well. What is the material difference here? Is it just we're just pegging ourselves on the CDC's numbers versus or guidelines versus the Washtenaw County?
Sure. So, the policy right now is that we are mandated that everyone wears masks regardless of transmission level. So, the CDC has recommendations based on county guidelines. So it's not the CDC or the county. It's them working. It's the county sets rates of transmission, and CDC has guidelines depending on what those rates of transmission are. So we've made it a little bit stricter. I think there was also a reaction, which doesn't answer your question, but goes a step further, that there are some aspects of distancing that are no longer under CDC guidelines. So the way we have these barriers and council jail and our city attorney, where we had a discussion, it can be very difficult for her to hear what's happening during our meetings because she's their term at the kids table over there, and that's not really conducive to effective discussion and us working together. Same with the city administrator, who historically has been at the council table with us. So we had discussions about that as well, in terms of what we think is just most effective for this body. So it's a few things that are motivating that, but also just to, I think, make it a little less confusing for the public to be more in line with federal guidelines. And I think it's also important to remember that the CDC's been all over the map, and it was called a novel virus for a reason that, we didn't know when things first came out, and that we're constantly learning and evolving. And sometimes I think we get it right more than we get it wrong, but that's part of what the scientific process is, right? You learn and you adjust, and if you get it wrong, which sometimes you do, then you try to make it better. So in tying these to the CDC guidelines, it allows for that flexibility instead of the rigidity that we have in the current policy.
Further discussion, Councilmember Umlaut.
Well, I guess, it depended on who was the president as well. Is a novel virus because, I'm not a scientist, but because of it, in fact, it was new, one that hasn't been exposed to humans. We have gone through pandemics before. I guess my question would be, with this going into effect, if this was the resolution, how would tonight's meeting be different?
It wouldn't. Oh,
Councilor Iyer, perhaps?
Oh, sure. We would all still be wearing masks. The public would be required to wear masks. But we would not have the social distancing because the CDC has has determined that the social distancing in these plexiglass, it's performative. It doesn't actually do anything. So that part would go away, but because community transmission is high right now, masks would still be required.
So our city attorney and our city administrator would be at this table with us, and we wouldn't have council members in the back row anymore. So if this were to pass tonight, next time we meet, we'd be all at one table.
Correct.
So there would be a little bit of difference. Thank you.
Further discussion? Councilmember Medina, my apologies.
No, that's right. Thank you. I don't have a ton more to add beyond what was already added with respect to essentially this just bringing us in line with what I think, we have been preaching all along, which is that we should follow the science and make evidence-based decisions. The CDC guidance here is a little bit less restrictive than what we are putting forward. But more importantly, something that I wanted to point out that I don't believe has been said yet is even in times when we wouldn't be required to wear a mask at this table or within chambers themselves, individuals could still obviously take that and make that decision themselves and continue to wear a mask if they choose. I believe Councilmember Grand pointed out that folks who are high risk are likely going to continue participating in our hybrid environment that I think will continue going forward. But ultimately, individuals who want to continue wearing masks would do so like I think we probably all do everywhere else in the community as we're going to grocery stores and restaurants and back to work. Often, I may be the only person in one of those rooms wearing a mask. Other times, everyone might be. But this step where we've kind of added the additional restriction is that if we are in the high guidance where everyone is recommended to wear it, as has been stated, we would still require that and continue to provide the PPE here at the meetings for members of the public as well.
Councilmember Nelson.
I'd like to move to postpone this until the community levels are measured as medium. And the reason is that what this is actually opening up is the opportunity for us to have standards that are fluctuating and changing. And again, the environment that I work in, we decided that we were not going to follow the Ann Arbor Public Schools Ann Arbor Public Schools protocols because it was too difficult to go back and forth. And frankly, the fluctuations that we've seen the last couple of years, I think it is completely reasonable for a body that meets every couple of weeks to delay a decision like this, to hesitate to make a decision like this based on what it looks like right now. I hear what has been explained around the seating and the arrangements of this room. That was not in the agenda item that I was reading in preparation for this meeting. That is news to me. Again, I'm moving to postpone this until the transmission rates reported by the county are not high, or medium.
I think we need to either have a date uncertain or a date certain. And I don't think we can refer out to a third-party date.
Then I guess I would move to table it then.
Seconded.
When tables for, I'm not going to fight that too hard. So tabling is requires we don't do this very often. It's a non-debate requires a supermajority.
Tabling seconded.
Is this are you point of ordering me?
Point of order.
Sure. What is the point of order?
Well, so tabling is for when something else comes up that the body needs to deal with right away. You table it, and then you come back to it when you can get to it. So if we needed to suddenly recess, or if there was some other issue that came up right away that we had to deal with, that's the correct use of table.
Point of order.
What is your point of order?
My point of order is that I would like our city attorney to tell us what tabling is and when it may be used.
I actually just heard from our city clerk. I would like to postpone indefinitely. That is appropriate.
Fair point. We'll pull back, if I may, we'll pull back the motion to table and have a motion to postpone
Seconded.
to a date uncertain, seconded by Councilmember Heener. Is there a discussion of the postponement? Councilmember Heener.
Clearly something more is up here, or that wouldn't have been, the tabling wouldn't have been fought. I wonder if our attorney would like to weigh in on that. Is there something going on here that we need to know about, like our relationship with our various agreements and MOUs we have with our various unions here in the city staff, for example? Because I know that my resolution to asked for the rescission of the mayor's emergency powers under COVID was initially accepted heartily and then an hour later rejected for a variety of reasons that I won't mention outside of a closed session. And so I will support this postponement because I have concerns about what might be lurking behind any moves we make in this area.
Is that okay? I'll try to answer that question. Councilmember Heener, there's nothing going on here beyond what is right in front of you, which is you have a new city attorney who was honest with you when she took the job that she might require some time to learn the entire book of the Roberts Rules, and I'm trying to figure it out as you go along. If you really need an answer to the tabling question, I would request a 5-minute recess so I can quickly look this up and get back to you.
No, that's fine, now that we've changed. Thank you.
On your other question, I think it was a question about your request with respect to the emergency
I guess to
powers.
form a question for you, consistent with what we're speaking to here, will there be any unforeseen circumstances or foreseen circumstances if this is acted upon or delayed or postponed at this point that you are aware of in our relationship with staff or the authority we have over staff or mandates for this or that?
No. The only thing that I'm aware of is that the boards and commissions currently follow the same exact rules that council does. And if you were to change something today from what is already existing, that would be cascaded down. That is the only thing I'm aware of. With respect to your interaction with staff, I'm not aware of anything.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Dohoney?
Mr. Mayor, the item DC5 has nothing to do with the standards established for staff and their performance within city halls. Those standards are set by the administrator. This item has nothing to do with that.
Further discussion of the postponement. Councilmember Briggs.
Yeah, I don't support a postponement. I appreciate the concerns that Councilmember Nelson raised around wanting some consistency here. I think that there remains some opportunity for some consistency. I would ask for a piece of clarification. I wonder if a bit of the resolution says that the city administrator shall continue to provide, let me read the right sentence, the city administrator should determine the spacing at city council meetings in consultation with the city council administration committee as appropriate. So to me, that doesn't definitively say that the spacing here at this table might shift, that that's something that administrative staff is going to need to consider in terms of, if they feel like there's going to be a lot of fluctuation or a need for that, that there's some opportunity. I guess just a point of clarity, it sounds like that's not necessarily fully identified yet. Maybe there's been some discussion at admin around that, but.
Nothing definitive.
Okay. So I appreciate the request for postponement, but I do support moving forward.
Further discussion of the postponement. Roll call vote, please, starting with Councilmember Heener. Postponement to a date uncertain.
Councilmember Heener?
Yes.
Councilmember Dish?
No.
Councilmember Griswold?
Yes.
Councilmember Song?
No.
Councilmember Grant?
No.
Councilmember Rodina?
No.
Mayor Taylor?
No.
Councilmember Iyer?
No.
Councilmember Nelson?
Yes.
Councilmember Briggs?
No.
Councilmember Ramlawi?
Yes.
Motion fails.
Further discussion of the main motion. Councilmember Dish.
I understand people's concerns about rising case numbers. I think they will only continue to rise. Everyone's been saying we'd be in a surge this fall. But in fact, we are saying, I should put this as a question. Do I understand it correctly that when CDC says levels are high and masking indoors is recommended, we are going to require it? Yes. County. But so, I mean, I went into a store this morning to get some chocolate-covered cherries for my mother. And I know it's so extraneous, but my mother is important in these things that I think about masking. And the door said, CDC says the level's high. You know, you're encouraged to wear a mask. Well, I required myself to wear a mask. And I think this is consistent with my practice, which is when I see that it's hot. I mean, actually, I mask all the time, and it won't keep me from doing that. And I will be safe if I mask, and we're in a different place and others don't. I'm totally comfortable with this. I think it's fine. We can leave a little room for flexibility, but when things are this high, and should they continue to be, we will continue to mask, and we might still have council jail, as Julie calls it.
Further discussion? I think you've already spoken twice in the main motion, Councilmember.
Was it? I thought I was once, but maybe you're right.
Further discussion of the main motion?
Did I speak twice?
I don't believe you've spoken twice about the main motion, Councilmember. Councilmember Hayner.
Oh, thanks. Since the COVID's been with us for a bit, since we never kind of received any formal policy analysis about what we should be doing about this, by public health experts or anything outside of our relationship with the county, I just think I think that we are good enough to decide that a strict standard is in order, and that we shouldn't be vacillating our standard back and forth, making work for staff and the clerk to set our thing up a different way, and rolling up and down with the tide of the CDC, which we know is a health organization, but also there are other global health organizations. We pegged it to the CDC because we're here in the United States, but all bureaucratic organizations by their very nature are political and so on. And so I'm very uncomfortable pegging our health considerations to a moving target like the CDC. I think we're adult enough to decide what's safe for us here. And I agree. I think these things are kind of hokey. I mean, we're all breathing the same air. We didn't make, as far as I know, we didn't make big improvements to our HVAC systems here in this room. Like maybe we did. I mean, I know a lot of businesses did, a lot of restaurants, nightclubs, and places that have a lot of people in them did, public spaces, public-private spaces. So, yeah, I don't get it. I don't get where it's coming from, and I don't think it's necessary, so I don't support it.
Further discussion? Councilmember Song.
Can we ask a question of the sponsors? Councilmember Grant has a PhD in public health, I believe. Did that weigh into? Is your expertise and your background part of this resolution, or informed a part of this resolution?
I think it's hard to separate one's educational background and training from, what informs all of the decisions. My PhD is not in epidemiology. But I do, I do think it's important to look at community practice and guidelines and try to make things as clear as possible. And I also, look at what's happening in our community. And, many of us sitting here at this table have kids in the Ann Arbor Public Schools, for example, who are going to school in a, basically unmasked environment every day. And we all, we're all bringing that back to this space. So I think it becomes increasingly difficult to separate out, what happens outside of these chambers. So that definitely was a factor in my supporting this policy.
I appreciate it. I think from what I interpret from our discussions here and from the resolution is that it's coming out of some real concerns and practices that we're parents. Some of us care for our own parents. I don't think we're intentionally adding more risk. I think the effort is guided towards increased protections. Is that correct?
I think that's true.
Thank you.
Further discussion? Councilmember Griswold.
I'd like to offer an amendment. Whereas we rely on the Washtenaw County Health Department to determine the local transmission level.
Is there a second? Second by Councilor Ayers. That's friendly to the body. Friendly to the body. Did you get that, Ms. Boudry? Thank you. Further discussion? For my part, I'm going to support the resolution and the proposed change. What it does is it keys off of the guidance, the scientific guidance provided to us by the CDC and by the Washtenaw Public Health Department, and then it errs on the side of caution. When transmission levels are high and masks are recommended, we here will require them. At the same time, I think it's important for us to observe that we are in a place where we want to be particularly open to the public. We also have to understand that we have been particularly open to the public. We have been much stricter than others in our community, other groups in our community, other places of public accommodation in our community. And I think we can also reasonably observe that there's nobody here. Present company excluded. We have kept a highly restrictive and a substantially more restrictive rule set here in order to make it a place for people to come, and yet they are not here. I think we have to look a little bit, we have to be practical about this. We also need to be able to enforce the rules that we have in the event that the county transmission diminishes to low, and we were to continue to have a resolution which obligated masking, which obligated distancing. I think you'd have an awkward asymmetry from the public reality to the council reality, and that's not something that I think is in anybody's best interests. It's important that we listen to the science, that we observe the local conditions on the ground, that we err on the side of caution, and that is exactly what this resolution set is doing. Further discussion. Roll call vote, please, starting with Councilmember Hayner.
Councilmember Hayner?
No.
Councilmember Dish?
Yes.
Councilmember Griswold?
Yes.
Councilmember Song?
Yes.
Councilmember Graham?
Yes.
Councilmember Medina?
Yes.
Mayor Taylor?
Yes.
Councilmember Iyer?
Yes.
Councilmember Nelson?
No.
Councilmember Briggs?
Yes.
Councilmember Ramlawi?
No.
Motion carries.
Do we have a closed session today?
No, we do not. Thank you.
We have before us the clerk's report of communications, petitions, and referrals. May I have a motion, please, to approve the clerk's report? Moved by Councilmember Medina, seconded by Councilmember Iyer. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? The clerk's report is approved. Do we have communications for Indomitable City Attorney?
I am aware that there has been press, and you have all been informed by me about the recent Court of Appeals decision in Gelman. I just want to assure you that we are taking it very seriously, and we're looking at various options. Procedurally, the case has not yet come down back to Judge Connors, so there's nothing yet to be immediately done. But I will present you with options once we have vetted them. Thank you.
We now come to public comment general time. Public comment general time is an opportunity for members of the public to speak to council and the community about matters of municipal interest. To speak at public comment general time, one need not have signed up in advance. Speakers will have 3 minutes in which to speak, so please pay close attention to the time. Our clerk will notify you when 30 seconds are remaining and when your time is expired. When your time is expired, please conclude your remarks and cede the floor. Is there anyone who would like to speak at public comment? Ms. Boudry?
Mayor, we have a few callers on the line. Michelle Hughes, go ahead.
So, I heard someone say that if you wear a mask, that'll keep you safe. And that is true, but it won't keep you as safe as it would to have other people wearing a mask. You need to have other people around you wearing a mask in order to keep you safe. I wear my mask in order to keep you safe. You wear your mask in order to keep me safe. That's how it works. That's how the science of COVID works. And so it's insufficient to ask vulnerable people to expose themselves to the risk of being in a closed room with unmasked people, even if they're themselves wearing a mask. Also, I've heard a lot of people say that these new guidelines are scientifically based, when I specifically remember hearing the CDC admit that their new relaxed guidance was not entirely based on science and was in fact more based on economics. That was more in their, when they were talking about the return to work policy of 5 days instead of 10 days of isolation. And so I don't think it's necessarily safe to say that all of the CDC's masking decisions are also entirely based on science. I also want to point out that, like, even a fully vaccinated person can get COVID, be asymptomatic, and transmit it to somebody else. I also want to point out that even a healthy vaccinated person stands a good risk of getting permanent disability by long COVID, or at least very long-term disability, even if not permanent. And, that's not, that's something that can happen, and that's not even in these case numbers. We're getting hospitalization, we're getting cases, hospitalizations and deaths. It's not even counting the people who are permanently disabled because of long COVID. Also, the community levels of medium and high, these things all happen when the old transmission levels that the CDC used to track would have been considered high and would have been considered dangerous. The new community levels take more into account the capacity of the hospital. So the community level is high right now because the hospital is full. That's like saying that when the hospital has beds, it's okay to do drunk driving. It's okay if you hurt someone with drunk driving because they can just go to the hospital. So I hope you reconsider these things. And thank you, Councilmember Nelson, for attempting to hold the line here. You'll be hearing from me on the phone. I will never go to the city council meetings when the community level is medium because it's too dangerous.
Thank you.
Adam Goodman, do you have a comment?
Yeah, hi. My name is Adam Goodman. I'm a resident of Ward 5. I want to say tonight I'm incredibly disappointed in those of you that voted against CAH, the state trunk line jurisdiction transfer study. I'll give you a specific example about this. I live near Jackson Road, specifically the area between Maple and Dexter. This is about a 3/4 mile stretch of road without a single marked crosswalk, without a single safe place to cross this road. Yet, along this corridor, there's several bus stops, there's Bats Park, there's a convenience store, and, a 4 to 3 lane conversion was done here in 2015, which would seem to have been an ideal circumstance to install some really high quality crosswalks with lights and islands, and yet there's still not a single one. Why? Because of MDOT. Now, look at Dexter Avenue, look at Liberty, look at Stadium, which is a wider and busier road. Look at Miller. All of them have mid-block crosswalks with flashing lights and islands at much closer intervals than this. And, I've been following the city's monthly transportation updates, and the city and many residents in the neighborhoods here have been trying to get MDOT to approve adding some crosswalks on this stretch of road, but they have not. It's literally the least they could do to improve pedestrian safety and access here. And this is only the tip of the iceberg for our issues with MDOT trunk lines in the city and the safety consequences that they have. But they haven't done a damn thing about this for 7 years. So what happens instead? Well, people are playing Frogger to get across Jackson every single day. And this is the part that some of you who have often claimed to be pedestrian safety advocates, have never seemed to get. People walking or biking aren't just out for a stroll a lot of the time. They have somewhere they're trying to get. And if you don't give them a safe way to get there, they will pick an unsafe way. And this is why we need to make changes. This is why we need to consider all of our options in our relationship with MDOT. And for those of you who don't support this, well, inevitably something awful is going to happen to someone here, and I guess their blood will be on your hands. And Councilmember Rumlaui, since you often seem to care about this sort of thing, this is in your ward. So I'm just going to close by saying I am really looking forward to November, and I hope y'all who remain on council after that will bring this proposal back up again after the new members have been seated. Thank you.
Thank you.
Luis Vasquez, do you have a comment? Luis Vasquez, press *6 to unmute your phone. Go ahead.
Okay. Okay. Greetings, Council. Luis Vasquez from the First Ward. I also wanted to express my disappointment in those who voted against CAA. I think it's a study, the kind of study that we need. I hope after November, perhaps the new council can take it up, reintroduce it. I think that would be great if you would. Looking forward to continued progress in terms of bicyclist, pedestrian, and car safety as well. As we move along, put all our resources to bear to continue to reduce deaths and injuries due to car supremacy. Also just wanted to, chime in about public health. I also have a degree in public health earned from University of Michigan in environmental and industrial health, and have used the principles, of control measures to preserve people's health. And knowing that COVID-19 is an airborne virus, I've relied on an N95 from day one, mainly because, I know how to protect myself. And I still wear an N95 whenever I travel on public transportation, whenever I go shopping. Not outside now, no. My wife is also a nurse in the Ann Arbor Public Schools. She also has a master's degree in public health and wears her masks religiously. We know this protects us, but it also protects you. And I would ask you to just continue to consider that in your deliberations going forward about public health measures in public buildings.
30
Thanks.
seconds.
Thank you.
Adam Juskevich, do you have a comment?
Hi, Adam Juskevich here from the Fourth Ward. I'm extremely disappointed, as other callers have been, in the rejection of CA8, the study to consider taking over state trunk lines. These are some of our worst roads safety-wise, and MDOT has not been a good partner with us in maintaining safety for pedestrians and cyclists. We need to consider moving forward without them. I would also like to kind of strangely thank those same council members for their advocacy for maintaining our current masking policy. Masking is an extremely easy ask, and I don't really see why we feel it is a big deal to tell people to mask up in an indoor setting. In light of the changes to the masking policy, I'm hoping that someone can explain what, if any, measures have been taken to improve ventilation in council chambers. How many changes per hour do we have with outside air? And what kind of filtering is in place? Do we have anybody running CO2 monitors in council chambers as kind of a proxy for that information? Thank you.
Thank you.
Caller with the phone number ending in 534, do you have a comment?
Hello, this is Tom Stalvert calling from Lower Town again. I'd like to make a couple different comments. One is on the MDOT public participation. Thank you, Councilmember Dish, for raising that, and encourage other people to promote this. I've been following this for a lot of years, and it looks like MDOT is finally serious about doing something. So public participation is available, and hopefully people will go find that site, go online, and add comments to that. The presentation on there's a video, 6 minutes near the end, that explains it pretty well. So MDOT's doing the work now, so let's give our 2 cents. I hope everybody can promote that to your constituents. Not just people in Ward 1, but it's pretty impactful for the city and for people's lives. Switching gears over to sustainable building, we do have the ability to do a lot more than we're doing. This is a crisis or it's not. We voted in 820, we're going to try to meet these goals, or we're not. The path we're on, we're not going to meet them. I don't know, maybe 2029 we'll buy a lot of offsets. But if we don't do better about making new construction sustainably built, electrification, etc., we simply dig ourselves in a hole that we cannot mathematically get out of. With everything else we're going to do, we're going to vote in a millage in November, and all the wonderful things we can do with that money are not going to dig ourselves or climb. We're not going to be able to climb out of the hole that we dig ourselves if we keep approving new construction without electrification and other sustainable building techniques. And we can put that into our code. We can do a lot better than we're doing. And when I hear at the table, well, there's nothing we could do tonight, or it's a small ask, etc., it's the work you do beforehand. It's the work you do ahead of time that sets up the ability to make better decisions when the application is before you. For example, TC1, a mass rezoning, is not the right way to address this. As we go forward, there will be improvements in our ability and other things we can do to require or incentivize sustainability. But if we mass zone a lot of parcels without that
30 seconds.
in our code, without that in the new zoning ordinance, then it's going to be really hard to claw back all those rezonings when we have the ability to put that in our zoning ordinance. We also have the housing code, and we have other places, including flexible development options, where we do have the ability to get more sustainability in our new construction. So please put that in while you can. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, there are no other callers on the line with their hands up.
Seeing no one, public comment is closed. Are there communications from council? Councilmember Hayner.
Thanks. I know this is kind of a short notice, but I was just kind of skimming through our notices here, and I see that this Wednesday, all day essentially, on Washington between Thayer and Fletcher is a campus fire safety awareness event, and I know there's been students watching because of the right to renew and so on, and so I wanted to pass that along, that some of the folks in the Fourth Ward have really embraced this notion of the fire safety and the importance of that on campus, and I know our rental inspectors focus on that and some other things too. And so I just wanted to put that out there. That's an all-day event. And then I also wanted to kind of give a personal thanks to and a farewell to Beth Collins. Some of you might know Beth Collins' name or maybe served on her. She was on the Elizabeth Dean Fund Committee. She had to resign. She's moving out of state. And she was also the secretary of the CARD group most recently. And she kind of really embraced what kind of resident volunteerism is, and she was always looking for a way to help make the community better, and she's going to be missed. So I just want to say thanks, Beth, for your service on those committees and groups, and just kind of generally for being a good neighbor. So you'll be missed. Thank you.
Further communication from council. Councilmember Griswold.
I want to thank our city attorney for the update tonight on the appeals court decision. I also want to acknowledge that we have a dual path. We have the legal path, and we also have the EPA path. And CARD will be having a meeting of their executive board tomorrow, and then 2 members of the CARD executive board will be presenting to the Environmental Commission on Thursday night. So I just want to let the public know that we are still aggressively pursuing both paths and doing everything possible. I also want to acknowledge that MDOT is not always as difficult as we make out, and I did go to a meeting of elected officials regarding North Main Street that included state-level elected officials and representatives from MDOT, and I thought that there was some creative thinking there. When I did see Paul Ajegba, who is the director of MDOT, a couple of years ago, he asked me how Jackson Road was functioning. So I think that we need to rely on our elected officials to develop a better relationship with MDOT. And lastly, I want to say that we seem to always be able to count on our state officials, because even though we don't know who within the state, someone advocated for and delivered $20 million for the riverfront project in Ann Arbor that the Roxbury Group is developing, and there's a private conservancy that was formed to receive this $20 million windfall. So thank you to the state.
Further communication from council. Councilor Song.
I promised some county commissioners to share that there was an article recently that was published looking for, there are 100 additional volunteers for a number of commissions. There are 100 positions. Should folks be unsatisfied with our performance here, you have the option of serving on boards such as the Board of Health. There are openings there. On the County Road Commission, there are a number of opportunities to share community expertise and prioritize the work at the county level. Thank you for mentioning our federal reps, state and reps. I almost forgot. Last week, I had the pleasure and honor of meeting President Biden and took the opportunity to work with city staff who quickly pulled together a one-pager and invited the president, hopefully, to visit our beautiful city, but also advocate for, share our plans to have the largest solar infill project in the country. So thank you to staff for that very short notice and being able to pull that together in short notice. Hopefully we can all cross our fingers and hope that perhaps President Biden, in some of his time, will be able to visit the city.
Further discussion, further communication from council. Motion to adjourn, please. Moved by Councilmember Redina, second by Councilmember Iyer. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? We are adjourned.